Lines up under center with Kenny McIntosh behind him, and it's Bowers, just like Stinch talked about in the open. Just get him the football. There he goes. 75 yards.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
3rd and 16 for Martinez. Didn't have time to throw it down the field. He runs instead. Martinez has the first down. Adrian Martinez. Unreal effort tonight for Kansas State.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Stroud rolls to his left and now throws back to a right, and wide open is Stover, who somersaults for a touchdown.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Hartman throws it into double coverage. Knocked down by Wiggins. Terrorized most of the day. And an emotional win for the Clemson Tigers.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Looking deep, Thayer Thomas makes the adjustment, makes the catch. Off he goes. Malik Dixon-Williams can't get there. It's a 75-yard touchdown for NC State.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Wednesday, midway through the week, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. And I'm David Smoak, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and behind the scenes today, Emery Winter, Jacob Wilson, and also Garrett Ross. We come to you today, take you up until 6 o'clock. We will have Brock Huard, who will be doing Baylor and Oklahoma State. He'll join us today at 3:30 from Fox Sports, and Sam Kahn from The Athletic. He'll join us at 4. Robert Allen covers Oklahoma State at 4:30, sideline reporter, plus Jon Machota on the Cowboys and Paul's Top 5 today. So College Football Management Committee met in Chicago, and really, to me, there may have been maybe some movement here and there, but here's a tweet from earlier today from Nicole Auerbach. Bill Hancock, he runs the College Football Playoff, confirmed that ESPN, the exclusive rights holder of the College Football Playoff, during its current form, would have the rights to the first-round games if it expands before it ends, which is before 2026. Now, don't put the next one up at all. Not yet. So they own it. So in other words, if in fact they were to expand prior to the end of the agreement, ESPN would still, if those extra games are played, they would still have control of those extra games. But Bob Thompson, who's been on this show many times, former Fox Sports executive, he came back and said, probably true, but ESPN might agree to open up the deal for some of the first-round games to another network in exchange for an early renewal of the college football package. They've got the NBA and UFC renewals to think about in the near term.
Yeah, some of these negotiations aren't as tooth and nail bitter as you may think, and we've learned that from Bob Thompson, because sometimes you're not going to get the whole thing. They got the whole SEC, good for them, but they also knew that even like with the Big Ten, they knew they weren't going to get the whole Big Ten. They were shocked not to get any of it, but they weren't going to get the whole thing. So you have to keep those things at least, on the good side of contentious so that you can work with those companies going forward for all the other different things. And to get things out of the way, like he said, with the NBA coming up and UFC coming up, it's better to get all those things off your plate.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. I mean, they're talking, and I'd like to see more of kind of the discussion. I don't have anything to add on that particular part of the UFC or the NBA or any of what that matters. I have no idea, honestly.
It's no different than what Bob Thompson is also saying in exchange for an early renewal of the college football package. And one of the things is that if, in fact, the Big 12 does have an agreement that is in hand with the ESPN and or Fox that may actually come to an agreement before theirs ends in 2025. And if that's the case, both sides would want something in between, whether it's freeing somebody up or whether it's adding a network, a regional type network. I don't know what it would be, but Bob Thompson's kind of told us that there's bargaining chips when these things happen. But one thing they did not do is they really still didn't decide when this is going to start. That they still have not said, okay, this is going to start in 2025 or 2024. So there's a lot of talk. I got to tell you, I can't stand meetings. I understand some are more valuable than others. I also understand certain businesses have them probably daily, if not maybe multiple times a day. I understand the role you may play. You need them. I get the communication part of it. But, man, there seems to be a lot of meetings to meet without a lot of things coming out of it.
Well, you got to explain what you're doing to earn those big paychecks, I guess. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of because it does seem like it's an exorbitant amount of meetings. And if, you can't really get things done if you're always meeting all the time. It's kind of how it feels to me. But, yeah, it seems like there's meetings for meetings to have meetings. And I don't quite get it, but we're not in that atmosphere, so who knows.
Here's one thing that Hancock said. Conversations healthy. Have some work to do because of other business. It's harder. It's harder this time because it's more difficult because it would be the first time it happens. And this would be new because of the expansion, just like it was probably when they decided to go to 4.
My idea for a lot of things to streamline, like the negotiation of the TV thing are, that's about money. That's about coming back with spots. Like that's real complicated. The schedule thing, though, I'm kind of fascinated by because let's say that everybody in this room was on the college football scheduling committee.
Okay.
I would say, okay, Jacob, work on a scheduling model that gives us, Friday nights and all this and where to put things. Emory, you do one where we can try to navigate around the NFL on Saturdays and those playoff weekends. Garrett, you do one that kind of helps us own December. And then those are the three, we get to those 3 models. And then when those 3 guys, calendar experts, come back, they make their pitch, and we vote on it. Like, that would be it. We don't need to sit all in the meeting and, continue to water the field if we can have people who can go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I'll tell you straight up for me, I care about the on the field, and the off the field is fun to an extent, and the playoff expansion is certainly something that's very welcome. But as far as the tedious nature of these people's meetings and the networks and all of that stuff, it's like Spanish to me. And I know a little bit of it, but I don't know enough to speak it very well. So I think it's great that they're having, meetings, whether they're meetings about meetings to have further meetings down the road. We know at worst, though, 2026, okay? That's at worst. We're getting the college football playoff. So can they start a year or 2 earlier? Well, that's a lot of what was being talked about today. But by 2026, come hell or high water, we're going to have an expanded playoff. Hopefully it gets started before then. I think we'd all like to see it before then. But I understand why it takes time to iron those things out. There's a lot of different irons in the fire. There's different networks at play. There's different corporations at play. There's different feelings at play. There's different motivations. There's different futures being planned at play. Do you really think that Kevin Warren and every other commissioner right now that they're all gathering to have this expanded playoff is really all still there with the same idea 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road? I don't. I think there's probably some part of a lot of these people involved that, is trying to do the best they can for their people. And so with everybody doing that can't work for everybody unless you find a solution where it does. And if to find that's going to take some time or it's impossible. So yeah, I don't think that just because they voted this as a green light that this was going to be an easy process to get it all sorted out. And I understand why that's some of the fun, but Yeah, like my head starts spinning when I think about like network trades and things like that. So I'm glad we have like a Bob Thompson and others to try and explain some of that.
CBS's Sports Dennis Dodd, the Big Ten's continued pursuit of 4 Pac-12 schools. This is an article this afternoon. Paul shared it with us. Is leading to concern that another round of expansion would collapse or could collapse the Pac-12. That's not breaking news. But, and I text Dennis on a couple of things. Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren continues to seek an offer from Amazon, potentially another partner for additional Big Ten football media rights revenue. Also, an often deemed substantial enough would likely convince an offer deemed substantial enough would likely convince Big Ten presidents to add Cal, Oregon, Stanford, and Washington. It would be valuable additions to the league from the Pac-12. That figure believed to be less, though, than $100 million annually. Again, that's still, on top of everything else they're making. So I asked Dennis, he's not at the college football playoff meetings. This is something that he didn't just decide today to type this story. That means he's hearing. There are people in his ear, and vice versa. He's doing his due diligence. And then, of course, if that happens, the other part of it, if the Big Ten moves, if that happens, I think the other 4 schools in the Pac-12 will want to jump to our league, said a Big 12 source familiar with situation. Of course they would, because there would be nothing left. Just like if the Big 12 had just completely obliterated and evaporated after Texas and Oklahoma left. So that's still out there. It's kind of like been the calm. Nothing's actually out there. Is there anything breaking here? No. But it kind of makes you wonder if the Big Ten is scratching an itch and going for that next jugular.
Well, I mean, kind of circling back to where we started here, I do think there are some things that are interesting coming out of those meetings. I just don't think that the network trade-offs and all of that are really, like, I can't comprehend those very well. But the week 0 talk and kind of how they would shuffle around with some of the dates, I think is interesting. But to this point right here, I think that it's 50% something to it, and also 50% just hot air, because this is like a scheduled tweet. Every 3.5 weeks, this tweet pops up in some form or fashion from the same place, basically, and it gets everybody's feathers ruffled again. And when what was the mood around expansion the last week? There was nothing, right? Nope. There was like nothing to talk about. All of a sudden, it's like dead quiet, and boom, people are talking about something that could happen. And there's a word that you kept repeating there: if the Big Ten wants to do this, if the Big Ten wants to do that. Yeah, if the Big Ten wants to make a move, that's all what we've all been waiting on. That's what we've all been waiting on. Do they want Oregon? Do they want Washington? If they do, make that move, and we'll all be completely unsurprised by it, and you'll do that, and then that will cause this domino effect that, we'll probably see the Pac-12 disband in some form or fashion, or the Big Ten's going to stay pat. The Big Ten has the cards clearly right now. But there is enough there, and I think it's a combination. I think it's the Big Ten loves having their name involved, in the news cycle, and the fact that they're brought up, and the fact that this is probably part of a grander plan when all is said and done. Although there's another side of it that says, like, every sign's out there that they're staying pat for right now. So I think it's kind of like what you want to believe in regards to the Big Ten and their agenda, and to each their own on that. I do think there's at least some smoke still. Like, the fire's never truly gone out, but I don't know how many flames there really are right now for more crazy movement. And I think the Big 12 has motivation to keep this thing going on, clearly, right? I mean, there's a desire on their part, it seems, to take advantage of any opportunity to potentially add teams down the road. The Pac-12 is obviously hugely invested. They've had to ward off Big 10, Big 12 folks whenever they've had these anonymous quotes. And then there's, the ACC that eventually gets, lumped into it in some form or fashion because of the fact that they're, kind of seen as the last bastion of uncharted territory that could make Oklahoma, Texas type moves in the future, although we know that's another decade down the road. So there's a lot of pieces coming together, but it does seem like every time it starts to kind of get quiet, there's this one area that always pops up and kind of gets the waters churning
and
again.
The reason it did is because they had the college football meetings in Chicago, and then later in October, like the 20th, they're going to be in Dallas, and I think that's the one where you might see some more than just talk and meetings. I think you're going to see a little bit more come out of that meeting.
My question for Amazon, and I get that you have tons of money and you don't really worry about space, and there's no, it's not like network programming where you have to fill time slots. You can just throw something on the wall.
You could have 28 things running at the same time.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about all that. So there's differences here. So content is just content. But that's also what's kind of gotten some of these streamers in trouble. Like Netflix, the reason that they're out over their skis is for a good solid 5 years, if you came to them and said, I've got a show about sneakers, they'd be like, I don't care anything else.
Yep.
Go make it. And they just went and did all that stuff. So Amazon has more money. I get that, but they would not get Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State.
No, in fact, that's been mentioned.
Yeah. So
they're not getting them.
They're getting they would be getting. So if you want to watch Northwestern versus Wisconsin. Well, me, man, I get
Northwestern, Oregon.
Northwestern versus Oregon.
Stanford against Maryland.
Oh, look, Cal versus Maryland. It might be on Amazon, which is fine. That might be just them saying, like, the only people who are going to watch this game are going to intentionally go find it unless both those teams get really, really good. So
right, it's like ESPN Plus for me. The only time I get on there is if, one, it's a game where I'm not attending and I need to watch it, and on occasion something else or two that I might want to watch. Here's from Ross Dellinger, SI.com. The 10 commissioners, Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick, met 10 hours over the last couple of days. Made progress was a mention. Expanding the football playoff by 2024 is still the goal. No specific answers, details, but Bill Hancock saying earlier is icing on the cake, earlier than 2026. We're going to have our cake in 2026. Can we ice it now, start earlier? That's what we're working on right now. They'll meet again in Dallas on October 20th, and I'm not so sure that wouldn't be great for us to have someone there to cover that during that meeting. So there's a little bit of that, what's going on. Also,
so I think out of all of that, like the only thing that appears factual, like to really chew on, is the 2026,
yeah.
And that's when the playoff will start at worst, and they're trying to get it in 2024 as early as possible. I don't know. I could see them swinging that just because it feels like they really wouldn't be talking about it too much if they didn't feel there was a really good chance of doing that, right?
Yep.
So I think that's probably a pretty good chance of happening. But yeah, outside of that nugget right there from those meetings,
that's it.
That's pretty much it. And then I guess some of the talk about moving up the schedule to accommodate later playoff or to accommodate extra playoff games. But then, of course, that would fall under the umbrella of what they'd want to do in 2024, 2025, 2026. So all that's kind of tied into the same story. And those would be details that we would get once they decide, like, hey, we're starting in 2024. And boom, then you get to the schedule and all that. But, yeah, outside of that, The Big Ten part of this, it's basically the same story from like 2 months ago. At least it feels that way on the surface. And perhaps there's more to it than that this time, but it still feels a whole lot like the Big Ten's kind of done, but maybe not. We'll tell you when we want to tell you. Then Washington and Oregon may or may not be coming. They're clearly interested because it's clear that they are. And why wouldn't they be?
This time the names of Stanford and Cal were brought into it.
Well, those were brought up all throughout the rest of the road. But they were just, it was like, is Cal really a target or are they not? And then it was like Stanford seems to be a dark horse.
Yeah.
And then the Oregon-Washington was always there. But it was a matter of, are they going to add just those two? Or are they going to add four? Are they going to add six? Are they going to, whatever
and USC
combination?
Does not want Oregon.
Well, that's the theory.
A&M didn't want Texas, and we saw what happened if the entire conference decides otherwise.
Tell USC that they have one less road trip that's 500 miles away, and they've also got, or however much the distance would be, and they've got, or one less chartered flight to have to go cross country with. They can instead have a little short mud hopper to get there, and they'd add like a 0 to their total. I'm sure they would be open-minded to that.
Well, the games if the first-round games, whatever year they begin, and this is something that you think of. Okay, when are they going to play? Because the NFL has taken over most of the back end of December. You'd like to have a game in its own window. There are just 3 windows: 12, 4, and 8. Now that's Eastern. 12, 11, 3, and 7 Central, and then of course there's Mountain and of course Pacific. So they might end up, and that's one of the things you have to discuss. Okay, you're going to have 4 first-round games, one on Friday night, maybe in prime time, and then you the next day have 11, 3, or whatever, and 7, the other 3. That way you get away from the NFL. Now, the NFL on Saturdays in the the mid part of the month, they start coming in on Saturday.
The problem that they will encounter is that many years ago, they just decided we're not going to do anything for 3 weeks in December. And the NFL said,
okay,
all right. I mean, if you want to, we'll, there's been people sitting on their butts on their couches watching these games for 3 months, 90 days, and you hit day 91, and we decided,
one thing that,
we'll stop. The season's not over, but we're going to stop.
The first round games, whenever they're played, whether Friday and a combination of Saturday, will be at home sites. That's one other thing that they have already, of course, confirmed. 12, that's confirmed. And that will 2026, as Craig said, that's the only thing that is a fact among everything that's been said, reported, written, or whatever else.
Yeah, and we've had interesting discussions about the Pac-12's future or lack thereof, and the Big Ten's interest or lack thereof. Clearly, there's some level of interest. This wouldn't keep popping up over and over and over again if there wasn't. And there's clearly interest on the other side with Oregon and Washington. There's just way too much smoke there to think that there's not. And just common sense would lead you to believe that they're probably wanting to jump to the Big Ten at this point just for security's sake and financial terms. But, I think there's clearly still something to all of that. It's just a matter of this is a 5-year game, a 10-year game. What is this ultimately? And that's what we don't know is the deep down motivations of those trying to pull these strings behind the scenes. We know Kliavkoff wants to hold the Pac-12 together. Duh. He's the commissioner of the Pac-12. What else is he going to do? But what does Kevin Warren really want? People seem to know, but I have no idea. I know that he wanted a couple of teams from L.A. Well, that makes perfect sense. But how much more does he really want? If he's satisfied, he's full, and he likes just basically being a little chaos guy and making everybody have to watch their backs constantly, then I'm sure he's having fun playing with the puppets right now. But if he is, in fact, keen on this national league type of situation, not immediately because it can't happen immediately, but down the road at some point, well, then that is something to pay attention to, and that's why you do have to acknowledge these little movements here and there, even if they're not seismic shifts like an OU Texas or a USC UCLA. Yeah, so it's interesting.
And anything, and Cindy, it's just an actual question. If you don't know the answer, I think there's never a dumb question. And Cindy, a couple of people kind of laughed at her question. What about a merger Pac-12 ACC? We've already been down that road. That's been brought up. That's been discussed. She's just asking the question.
No, I'm not talking to her. I'm saying that's been brought up this week. Yeah. What are you talking about? That's being brought up right now. I've seen articles about that a day ago. They were talking about that once again. I can't, off the top of my head, tell you exactly who was writing it again. But, yeah, I feel like I saw a couple of those types of articles pop up and, the fantasy scenario. And, Cindy, it's a great idea. Certainly there's a lot of teams that would benefit from that. But it just appears right now that it seems like more of a hope than anything actually, with some meat on the bone to it. And logistically, it would be interesting to see how they could make all of that come together. But, yeah, I just read something about, what if the Pac and the ACC and the Big 12 all got together, and what would that look like? And that was something that was discussed a couple months ago. But it seems like that gets brought up in some form, whether it's two conferences or 3 conferences, and there's just too many issues to try and navigate.
And there's no need for that now.
Well, that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
And the scheduling alliance part of this would get really changed with all these conferences being so big, and everybody probably have 9 conference games. You're not talking about a lot of games that you have to really fill there. Plus now with the group of 5 teams having a shot to get in the playoffs, they're gonna they already answer your calls, but they're gonna be a lot more aggressive in filling those spots as well. So there's a lot of things you have to navigate with scheduling alliances or alliances. Also, I don't know if I were George Kliavkoff, I wouldn't exactly go out and tout that I was trying to seek a partnership with the ACC when the whole reason I've given for UCLA being not financially viable to leave is that they'd have to travel across the country too much. Well, I don't know if he's looked at a map, but the Pacific Conference and the Atlantic Conference are on different bleeping oceans,
They're
George.
Almost as close if the Pac-12 went west to get to the ACC. I'm kidding.
There's only 7 oceans in the world.
We have to hit a break to get to Brock Huard on time here.
I need to say one thing, though. Cindy, the biggest reason why is because of the expanded playoff, of why that's not in the immediate plans. It was a lot bigger of a conversation prior to the playoff, but with the playoff expanding and basically guaranteeing that the Big 12 champ, so long as they don't have 4 losses over their head, is going to be a playoff team, and the Pac-12 champ, same thing, is going to be a playoff team. They have a route now. They didn't have a route necessarily before, but they've got a pretty solid route compared to what was out there, so that's a big reason why the consolidation doesn't make sense right now.
And you wonder, USC and UCLA most likely still make the move because of the almighty dollar.
For sure.
Texas and Oklahoma making the move because of the almighty dollar. But you wonder if they would have known, and maybe they did, but they didn't, that they would eventually and quicker and sooner than we think move to 12 rather than 4. I'm not saying none of those 4 teams would have stayed, but you now have a tougher route where you're going than you did where you are.
Maybe UCLA reconsiders. That'd be the first one I think would. I think Oklahoma and Texas is as much about the prestige and the name and the headlines as it is about the money. And because, what money does Texas really need? Although, of course, how are the richest? Well, they get the most money at every turn, right? So I'm sure money was a factor for UT, but I think it was having the SEC logo and being able to say you were in the top club and that kind of stuff. So I feel like,
hey, I think
3 of the 4
USC's doing that too.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, you can apply that to them. So I say UCLA might be the only one, just because they don't seem hell bent on that type of glory per se, but they need the money clearly. So maybe they would have reconsidered, but I think all the other 3 definitely go no matter what.
You'd love to be able to ask Kevin Eltife, or you'd love to be able to ask presidents at various schools. Just to even if they said no, we were going to leave no matter what if we had known about the 12-playoff expansion, 12-team expansion. Thanks for all of you early on. One note in the break, Jeffrey Thompson went to USC but wrote my dissertation at Stanford. Stanford lives in a different universe. Stanford students cry when they graduate. Do I have to leave now? No. In other words, they don't want to leave. They're in a bubble.
You never really graduate, I guess. Yeah.
All
Just
right.
think of it that way.
When we come back, he's a part of the broadcast coming up this weekend for Baylor and Oklahoma State. Brock Huard of Fox Sports, right here on 365 Sports. If you have ever found yourself waking up or going to sleep at night, and you also man, I'm tired of being overweight. I'm tired of not being in shape. And then another day goes by, and then another week goes by, and then another month goes by, and then another year goes by, and you never did anything about it. Here's an opportunity for you. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive. They have this spectacular gym. All sorts of new amenities that they didn't have even 2 or 3 years ago. What they have is state-of-the-art. Whether you want to run on the treadmill or run somewhere around the gym, around the parking lots that are around the gym. Weights of every way you want, from Cybex machines to free weights. They have personal trainers in Christy London and also Randall Corley. If you contact them and let them help you find a way to get back in shape, lose some weight, and be, most importantly, healthier and fit. They have memberships available. They have all of what you would ever want when it comes to fitness, health, exercise, and more. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco. Because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. Save big this month on a new 2022 Dodge Charger GT and get $500 bonus cash with 2.9% for 72 months. Plus, first responders get an extra $500 off your purchase. Stop by today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Busy week every week when you call college football games or cover it in any way. And we're now joined by Fox Sports' Brock Huard. He joins us on 365 Sports, prepping for Baylor at Oklahoma State. Brock, what will it be like if you could get anything close to what it was like in Arlington for the Big 12 championship game?
Yeah, sign me up. That would I take that one down to the final, I don't know, inch and a half of turf in that game. And we were in Norman over the weekend, and that was a whale of a ball game. And people always, like to have a little fun with us announcers in the social media realm and think we have a rooting interest for one team or another. But all we really root for is compelling theater. And when these two got together last year, that was certainly compelling, as has really K-State and Oklahoma just about every time out the last 4 years. So I don't think it'll be anything different. I think this will be a very hard-fought game Saturday down there in Waco, and I think the guys in the desert tend to agree with the spread that's pretty darn tight.
Brock, is there a team in the Big 12 that is bad, legitimately bad, or is this a league that's going to beat up on each other a lot?
Yeah, we chatted with Derek Mason today, and I think he echoed the sentiment of a lot of people. There's just really not going to be an easy out. Now, we'll see how the year plays out. There's a lot of very physical teams. I think your Bears are about as physical as it gets in this conference, but Iowa State plays physical football. K-State and Oklahoma play physical football. Obviously, Oklahoma State is incredibly physical as well. And with as many of those teams built that way over the course of the season, you and I both know what's going to happen. That what it looks like, week one in the Big 12 or week two is not in any way what it's going to look like by the end of the year, because you're going to have losses. You're going to have key contributors and key players that get knocked out for significant time just because of the nature of the physical presence in this league. And as I'm saying that, I'm kind of chuckling because it was just 5 or 6 years ago, no one would have ever said that about the Big 12. But yeah, there's new coaches, there's new blood, there's new physical programs. So I think as we sit here today, obviously with Kansas's emergence and K-State's big win and Sonny Dykes doing nice things there in Fort Worth, and even Texas Tech obviously getting it done late there against Texas. Yeah, not really an easy out. West Virginia obviously had some struggles out of conference, but I think Neil Brown's an excellent coach, and they still have a QB that can sling it everywhere, and they'll be a problem for some people. So there's really not a gimme on the schedule as we sit here and look at it right now.
Brock, last year, Blake Shapen got kind of thrown into the fire on the road against Kansas State, a matter of fact. Plays the second half, then plays the season finale against Texas Tech, and then plays in the Big 12 championship game and plays really well early on before getting his shoulder dinged up and then missing the bowl game. Obviously, those 3 games helped, and now that the games he's played so far this season, but how much before you feel like you've really kind of found yourself as a quarterback? Do you think he's approaching that already, or do you think there's a little bit more experience required?
Well, I think that depends on the people around you. And as Coach Aranda said the other day, coming out of the Iowa State game, I read into his quote of, he was trusting himself and trusting the team. And that's really the word, I think the word I continually come back to. It's not talent. I mean, he's got a beautiful release and the flick of a wrist. He's like, obviously a shortstop in baseball, and you see that arm talent manifest itself on the field. But it comes down to trust. And you had 2 senior running backs last year. You had 2 dynamic senior receivers. I'm looking at my board, comparing this year to last year. I had a Baylor a season ago against Iowa State, and it's like, who are these guys? Where did they go? Some of these receivers weren't even on the depth chart last year, and obviously asked to play significant roles. The true freshman running back was playing high school football last year. So the benefit is he has a bruising group up front. That does enable, I think, the quarterback to hopefully gain trust even quicker. But as far as throwing it on the perimeter, and you saw that in Provo, he was just hesitant. He flinched. When I watched that tape, I had BYU Oregon a few weeks ago. So in my prep for that game, I watched the Baylor game, and I was like, man, that is not the Blake Shapen I saw a season ago. That's not the one I saw in the Big 12 title game. And I think it was representative of just not trusting that perimeter, those perimeter people, and throwing with anticipation, and was just kind of clutching everything. And that was not the case in Ames. And I think for Coach Aranda, for Coach Grimes in particular, calling the plays, if Ames is a precursor of things to come, that's a good sign, because that O-line is good. The people on the perimeter will grow. Your tight end is elite. And this little freshman running back's got quite a burst to him as well.
Brock, did you see Jeff Grimes do anything differently in Ames to give Blake more of the ability to do what he did than he did in Provo?
Well, as the course of that game went on in Provo, you did see Coach Grimes button it up. You did see him say, uh-oh. And he likes to be down on the field, and Jeff is one of my favorite guys to talk to and has been the last couple years. I had him at BYU, as I mentioned last year, and even when he was no line coach, it kind of bug him and walk in his office at times. So on the road in Ames and what we saw on a difficult night in Provo.
Brock, I do want to ask you a question while we have you here about you as a broadcaster. You've been doing this for a while. I think you might have had your signature call in the Nebraska-Northwestern game this year, because it's hard to hit a note that everyone who's watching a game all over the world felt when you said, I don't know about that, on that onside kick. You were all of us at the same moment having that same thought.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I think when you do radio, and I do what you guys do in the mornings, and I do it now back to Seattle, where I did it for 12 years. There's something about guys that do radio on a daily basis that, I don't know, maybe our filter gets weakened, or we have a little sense of our audience at times or what they're feeling, but. Yeah, that was one of those moments I turned to my new play-by-play guy, who's just been awesome. I don't know if you all have ever chatted with Jason Benetti. What a great guy. Creates such comfort and confidence. And we chat, obviously, off the air during the timeouts. And, yeah, that was one that I just looked at him, and I didn't even think of the audience. I think that comment was geared toward him. Like, I don't know about that, Jason. That certainly did not work, and unfortunately, a harbinger of things to come for Scott and staff.
Well, hey, things are going well for the Huskies, so I'm sure that's a fun conversation to have with. Thanks to Michael Penix up there right now. But I want to ask you about another quarterback, since I know you're short on time. But on the other side of the Bears this weekend will be Spencer Sanders, who we've seen for many years now, and we've seen the good, the great, the bad, the worst, what have you. He's off to a really nice start this season. Brock, is there anything different to his game? Is it just playing with confidence? What do you notice about him through this first month?
He still puts the ball in harm's way. I mean, there were a couple Arizona State drops. He will still do that when people are around him. And you guys know this better than I do. I mean, 10 of his 32 interceptions in his career are against your Baylor Bears. And I had our research staff and just got the answer here about half an hour ago, fresh off the press. So I don't know if you already know this or not, but I asked our guys in research, when was the last QB to throw 10-plus interceptions versus one opponent? And you got to go back to the great Alex Brink at Washington State in the early 2000s. From a Power 5 standpoint against Oregon State, he threw 12. Oh. So if we get a few more, if Spencer throws a few more to the Baylor Bears this way Saturday, then he may push Alex Brink. But he's a twitchy guy. He loves to run. In those matchups against Baylor over the course of his career, he runs it on average 12 times a game. Against ranked opponents, he will run it up to 14 times a game on average. So that to me is the X factor. In the passing game, they throw a bunch of outs, a bunch of in cuts. They'll take their shots. He's got kind of a funky release, but he will pull the trigger. But the difference, as it was, frankly, for Adrian Martinez going to Oklahoma and winning, when you go on the road, especially, your X factor can be your legs. So for Baylor Bears fans, third downs, red zone, critical moments in the game, you better contain him because he looks to use his wheels, and they're awfully, awfully dangerous.
Brock, your thoughts about Baylor? I know they have not allowed over 100 yards in a game. Brigham Young, Jaron Hall hurt them with his legs, but mainly his passing. He was phenomenal with Roberts. Your thoughts about how they have been able to shut people down, no matter who they've played, with that big, thick, deep defensive line?
Yep. Well, that's it right there, man. When you can win the most basic math equation on the field, when you're 4, and sometimes with Siaki, it's just your 3 to beat 5, it gives you so many more numbers to play with. It's kind of the inverse of what I was just talking about with a quarterback that can run. You get that extra +1 in the run game because he becomes a runner and not just handing the ball off. They do that defensively with their, as you said, huge, long, athletic, thick guys up front that just make you earn every yard and then do enough in the passing game to squeeze and constrict and feel that QB feels their presence in that pocket. And then you've got 7 or 8 on the back end that cause a lot of problems. But when there's 4 receivers versus 7, no QB likes those odds. So that will certainly be critical, their ability to contain Spencer, to hit Spencer. I love how fast Dylan Doyle and Matt Jones are playing at the second level of that defense as well. I think they're playing fast as fast as any second-level defenders I've watched on tape at this point in the season. And, yeah, boys, it's going to be a loud one. It's going to be a physical one, and it's going to be one whose ever veteran defensive line controls and constricts this pocket most frequently, more than likely wins it Saturday.
Brock, last question for you. Dave Aranda, there are fits of great head coaches elsewhere, some of them Hall of Famers, some of them that won national titles. Your sense for the fit of Dave Aranda and what we've seen at Baylor and what Baylor also means to him?
Yeah, I think it's similar to your basketball coach. Now, ultimately, he lifted the trophy, right, and won the whole doggone thing. But I think you see a similar feel there, frankly, for a lot of those coaches in the sports there. It's just obviously men's and women's basketball and football tend to generate the exposure and obviously the revenues too. But, yeah, it is a fit. And you saw that in the hiring process last year where, I mean, if you're a Baylor Bear fan, you're thrilled because there was just about any and every major opportunity and almost any and everyone came knocking at his door. And I think he felt a peace and contentment with life there, with raising his family there, with the people that surround him in leadership and on his staff there. And And those are awfully attractive things to keep him there in Waco and obviously sign a lucrative extension. And then ultimately you recruit the kind of guys, I'm sorry, long answer, but you recruit the kind of kids that fit your eye, and you've got enough talent in Texas and in that area and within a 4 or 5 hour drive of the quality of kid he's looking for, and that too I think is very attractive today.
No, we appreciate the long answer. I'm sorry I went to say thank you. Appreciate your time. I know you got a crazy cram schedule. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you Saturday and also hearing the call and watching the call too.
That sounds great, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Brock Huard, Fox Sports. He and Jason Benetti will have the game on Saturday, 2:30, Baylor and Oklahoma State at McLean Stadium.
We need to get him on to just talk Huskies if they keep winning the way that they are, because, we had to be mindful of time. But, I could have gone down at least the Michael Penix rabbit hole with him. And good stuff from Brock there. And I think he, pretty much nails the obvious as far as the core of this game, which comes down to the line of scrimmage, like pretty much every game, and it comes down to quarterback play. And I think, whichever quarterback has the best game and whichever line protects the best, that's probably who's winning this game.
Then maybe somebody who can get pop. Now, I'm not saying there's going to be a lot of long runs, but when you play that tight, a constricting defense, and you have the speed on each defense, it's hard to give up a pop. But whoever can possibly get that one big 25 to 40-yard run as well.
I'm curious to see. Oklahoma State's biggest losses on defense are Malcolm Rodriguez and Devin Harper, both in the NFL right now. Devin Harper's with the Cowboys. I forget where Malcolm Rodriguez
Lions,
is.
Right?
Lions, yeah. And he's playing. I mean, of course you get drafted by the Lions, you're probably playing. But they're both really good. I wonder how much, especially with Ben Sims back, and great timing to get him back a week before he has to do this, that they might have the middle a little bit better than they did last year against Oklahoma State in that early game, because those guys are gone. And look, Oklahoma State is reloaded, but the one part early in the season where you look at their, people are saying about what they miss, it's Malcolm Rodriguez and Devin Harper, because even though you've got new guys there you like, they're not Malcolm Rodriguez and Devin Harper yet. Those guys were really, really good.
Well, they don't have a J.T. Woods and a Jalen Petrie and Terrell Bernard either.
Yeah.
They're trying, again, both coaching staffs are trying to find that next level. But we saw some of the younger players for Baylor making plays with Lemire and Neal, among some others, in that win against Iowa State on the road.
Yeah, I think, and there's some other guys that are gone from Oklahoma State. Was it Jerry Bernard Converse? I think maybe I'm misremembering that, but they both teams lost guys. Point being, and when I think of just this game, I feel like I've seen over the last 3 days, and on this show as well, but the mentions of last year, and you do that because like I've mentioned, they played 3 times in the last 365 days as of Saturday. But this is a wildly different game than it was last year. These are not the same teams. Yes, Sanders is still the quarterback and Shapen's still the quarterback as far as that second meeting goes. And yes, the O-line for Baylor's back, and there's players sprinkled all over their back. But to me, there are a lot of big changes. Jim Knowles is not there now. That's now Derek Mason's spot. And so I know that it seems like it's familiar, like it's the same teams that are lining up to play each other again. But I do think while there's some familiar faces, this is going to be its own different contest and not necessarily attached in any way to what we've seen recently over the last year.
All right, when we come back, a couple of other nuggets. We'll have Sam Kahn from theathletic.com joining us at 4 o'clock. And one of the stories today was a commitment by one of the best players. In fact, the #1 defensive lineman in the country. He was looking at different options. He's made that decision. Sam Kahn also will help us. What does that mean? Real quickly, Garrett, can you throw the story or the picture up? Paul, Craig, we've all been in Tampa. No, Tampa. Hurricane Ian. That is right there off that area on the bay where you have the hotels. It's the water receded.
Yeah, because it's about to come back.
That means
that's what happens with a tsunami.
Yep.
Yeah. All the water pulls back. If there's an earthquake in the ocean, like you saw the tsunami in India years ago, all the water comes pulling back, and it's like that. And at some point, it's got to come back to where it was. And
gravity
it comes back
takes over.
Fiercely.
Yep. So we have 3 uncles for Craig, 3 brothers for me that all live in that area. One on the East Coast. My 2 oldest brothers live in Tampa and also in Clearwater. I've been on the phone. Everything's good so far, but there's a lot of damage in Fort Myers. There's been, the Terry Jolly and his family in Naples. That's That's a place that's getting hit pretty good. Marco Island. So we're thinking about all of you in Florida as well.
Yeah, and Fort Myers is my hometown. I love Fort Myers, Florida. It's a huge part of me as a person growing up there. And, I think about all my friends at Bishopville High School and everybody at St. Francis School that I grew up with, and they're there. I've been thinking about you guys all day. I've reached out to those of you that I can, and I hope that the people in Fort Myers can hurry up and bounce back from this, because this is really bad.
It's got some huge winds. It's now at some point going to be headed right through the gut and the spine of Florida, so be careful. If you have family in that area, hopefully you've already checked in on them, because this one's pretty nasty, Hurricane Ian. This is 365 Sports. The new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Star values up to $6,500 right now, or you can get $1,750 back in bonus cash plus 2.9% financing for 72 months. Or you can take 0% financing for 72 months. First responders get an extra $500. The Ram Power Days continue. Also, the new 2022 Wagoneer Series 2 and 3, 2.9% for 72 months plus $3,500. Conquest bonus cash. First responders, $500 during the Jeep Adventure Days. And then the Wagoneer Series 2 and 3, beautiful, luxurious, durable. They can carry a lot if you need it. The inside amenities are as good as anything that's ever been done. And then there's also the 2022 Dodge Charger and Challenger, $500 retail bonus cash, 2.9% as well for 72 months. Go by, say hi, find Ted Teague, shake his hand, he'll shake yours. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
We're fighting hard at Pickup Outfitters in our battle to end truck nudity. But it's not just about putting an outfit on a naked truck, it's about making sure you have the very best customer service. So we offer the Pickup Outfitters Lifetime Installation Guarantee. Over time, sometimes your outfit needs a little tune-up, maybe some tightening, adjusting, whatever. If you outfitted your truck at Pickup Outfitters, that tune-up is absolutely no charge for the remainder of the time you own that truck. We also offer free warranty assistance. If for any reason you need to use your warranty, you just bring it back to us and we take care of it. It just makes sense. I mean, operating without a promise like that would be like offering customer service in the nude. And if you've seen our staff, trust me, You don't want that. So do your part to end truck nudity by outfitting your truck, Jeep, SUV, or van at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, where we promise to serve you fully clothed. Check out our website, createacommotion.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, you saw this flash up for a second. Colt McCoy with the Arizona Cardinals, incredible college quarterback at Texas. Long time in the NFL. So, yes, Cliff Kingsbury, among some others for the Cardinals. You have these players that do these bets. Have you ever seen someone as unhappy and not happy about a picture being taken as he is right here?
He looks like a kid whose mom made him wear a sweater on picture day.
Yep. He's not happy, and he shouldn't be. Yeah. He's through and through Texas, and it was incredible for them. And so you have players that do this, especially – and that's not even their rival, Imagine if there's somebody for the Cardinals from Oklahoma, or eventually down the road to whoever they play.
There's a pretty big
quarterback. There's a pretty good wide receiver. They have some Oklahoma guys.
And I'm not so sure it wasn't last year when Kyler Murray and Colt McCoy had that little deal, and there was a picture like that. He looks like he is not very happy.
Antoine Wesley, the wide receiver for the Cardinals, is Texas Tech. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So there's that with Colt McCoy, and good for him for following up on doing whatever they.
For what it's worth, Kingsbury said that he was not part of the bet because he wouldn't want to wear burnt orange, and I think he said it a little more harshly than that. But I'm with him. Yeah, I'd probably avoid those types of bets too, as far as certain teams go, because I could see not wanting to wear the burnt orange and how that might feel icky for a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, who is a Tech guy through and through. But it's always fun to see those college players. Or it's fun to see players, still have those college rivalries alive and well in the NFL, and have these little bets from time to time. You see it, there's probably one every week if we really paid close attention to it. But that's a very miserable picture on the part of Colt McCoy.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. And now, one note to clarify that Arkansas A&M game, the way that game ended, when the ball doinked at the very top of the tip of the upright on the right side, which I'd never seen, and based on the reaction on Twitter, nobody else had ever seen it. In the NFL, if the ball goes above the upright, it's good. If it goes right above the upright, it's good. And we had somebody that contacted us on the text line. Thank you for letting us know. If the ball is higher than the upright, it must be completely inside the upright to be good in college football. When there are different rules, of course, between the NCAA and also the NFL. If it is straight over the upright, it is not good. So the doink, no matter if it had bounced backwards over the upright, according to the rules of the NCAA, would not be good.
By the way, wet blanket, I don't know if this is a thing that's happened or you came up with it yourself. If you did, he's calling it the oink doink.
The oink doink. Perfect. That's perfect. Absolutely amazing ending to that game. So that was a gut-wrenching loss for Arkansas and also A&M, which has had a bunch that they've been able to kind of just peel away from Arkansas in the last decade. All right, when we come back, Sam Conn, theathletic.com. This is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace in Waco. Dr. Rob Maxey and his staff and the partners have found themselves something that has helped a lot of people, including me. It can help you. If you have a muscle, a ligament, or something that your doctor, orthopedic surgeon, or your regular doctor says, we need to get an MRI, you, if you can, get to Waco, and some have driven to Waco for this because of what I'm about to tell you, have state-of-the-art technology. The MRI machine is phenomenal. The staff, the techs and specialists, unbelievably good. Make it an easy process, and it's not always easy for some. 400 and $97 is all you will pay. You won't pay $497 the first MRI and $1,400 the second. You won't even pay anything over $497 the second or third or fourth time, and hopefully you don't have to go inside an MRI machine that many times or even at all. But if you do, Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace in Waco, as Carl and his wife did coming in from Austin, as others have said they've done from Dallas and Houston, $497 or less every single time. IdealMRI.com.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneerboys.com.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Well, play action. They got him, and it's Ben Sims right there, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Baylor.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
By the way, on Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, a lot of that 0% financing, it's not like it's going to be next month. He just wanted me to reiterate that 0% financing is late in the month. That's going to be gone. So take advantage of that at Alan Samuels, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. Thank you, Ted. This is Sam Kahn, theathletic.com, covers college football and covers it incredibly well. Joins us on 365 Sports with Craig and Paul, and I'm David Smoak. So, Sam, I saw that earlier this afternoon, David Hicks, a star, big-time player from Katy Paetow, made the commitment to A&M. Your thoughts about yet another high-level defensive player for the Aggies?
Boy, there aren't too many programs recruiting defensive linemen much better than Texas A&M at this point, is there? They did obviously a bang-up job last year with 7 top 100 national recruits on the defensive line, and you add a 5-star like David Hicks, and it just continues. So what it does is it's going to help Texas A&M continue to be really competitive in the SEC West, because if you can rush the passer and you can stop the run, then you're going to be in good shape. I'm sure some A&M fans would also love to see some high-level offensive recruits commit to Texas A&M, given what the Aggies have done on the offensive side of the ball in the last few weeks. But, hey, you take the wins where you can get them. So, big ups to Jimbo Fisher and his staff for pulling that one off.
Is this why, even though it may look from the outside like Jimbo Fisher is, feeling some heat, that if he keeps getting recruits like this, then they're not going to do anything about that?
Yeah, that's the thing is, ultimately, if you continue to recruit at the level that A&M did the last cycle, and if this can trigger them, I mean, right now they were kind of in the 20s. This has been a little bit of a down year, comparatively speaking. They're a little bit behind pace on this recruiting class, but they're still, of the guys they do have a lot of really nice blue chip prospects in their 2023 class. But if you can just recruit and stack classes the way they have the last 4 years, eventually the talent is going to take over. I think we can say what we want about their offense, and there's certainly no shortage of criticism there, and a lot of it warranted. But at some point, you're going to hit enough of those guys that you're going to be good enough to do something of significance in college football and the national.
Sam, how surprised are you by the offensive struggles?
A little bit, mainly because I think they've probably had more problems up front than I thought they would.
Yeah.
The offensive line was something that gave them problems last year, but they started true freshmen up front. So you kind of understood that. There were some growing pains there, but with 3 returning starters, virtually the entire right side of the offensive line back, you figure they'd be better. Now, some of that is impacted by injuries. They didn't have their starting center for the first 2 weeks of the season. He came back, Bryce Foster came back against Miami, and was still very much playing his way back into shape, you could tell. So some of that obviously can be attributed to that, but I certainly didn't think Haynes King was going to look as rough as he did right out of the gate. He didn't take care of the ball very well, and we certainly saw that last year when he started, the one start that he had, but it was one game, so it's hard to extrapolate that small sample size to say, oh, he's got a problem taking care of the ball, because we only really saw that one time. Max Johnson has given them a little bit of extra, certainly, at least in terms of taking care of the ball. But the other thing I think that a lot of us undersold nationally is missing Isaiah Spiller. Yeah. Their run game is really good, and Devon Achane is a tremendously talented running back. But having that 1-2 punch the last 2 years has really, really been integral to their offensive success, because Spiller was one of those guys that even when things weren't blocked perfectly up front, he could make it happen. His vision and his footwork, his cutting ability was so good. And so if there was nothing to be had, he could still get you a few yards. And Devon Achane, I started to see some of that last week against Arkansas, but he hasn't been the go-to guy, and this is now his first year being the go-to guy, and they don't really have someone of his caliber right after him. They've got some really talented guys, but nobody's done it at that level. So all that to say that some of these issues probably could have been foreseen, but overall, I would have thought they'd be a lot farther ahead of schedule offensively than they have.
How many combined Big 12 conference losses will the 2 teams that play for the Big 12 championship have this season?
Golly, could it be as much as 6? Possibly. Could we be looking at 2-3 lost teams playing for the Big 12 championship? I mean, it certainly isn't outside of the realm of possibility, this is a deep league with no easy wins anymore. Kansas has kind of blown that out of the water with their 4-0 start. Max Olson and I were talking on our podcast this morning. We were trying to figure out who is the worst team in the Big 12 conference right now. It's kind of hard to tell. I guess right now maybe my pick would be West Virginia, but even though they just came off a win over Virginia Tech,
same.
So they're not a bad team. And they also, the other challenge is sussing out which is the best team in the league. Oklahoma a week ago, I think Max and I were talking about, are they a playoff team? And then they turn around and lose to K-State. K-State, of course, had just lost to Tulane, but then comes up with a big win. And then we got the big game with Baylor and Oklahoma State this weekend, which I think will tell us a lot about how that race is going to shape up down the stretch.
Did your opinion of Texas Tech and or Texas change after that game this weekend?
Not a ton, no. I knew that game was going to be trouble for Texas. You guys know, when you go down to Lubbock on a Saturday, anything can happen. It can get a little hairy. And this Texas Tech team that Joey McGuire took over, he inherited a good roster. For all the struggles that Matt Wells and his staff had, the one thing they did do was manage the roster well and bring in a lot of depth via the transfer portal. So he took over a team. Heck, they went to a bowl game last year and beat Mississippi State. So clearly he wasn't taking over a bad situation from a roster standpoint. So you take that into account. You look at the staff he hired, a veteran defensive coordinator, a lot of Texas high school ties. You've got a rising star offensive coordinator. I certainly wasn't shocked to see Texas Tech upset them. At the same token, I knew Texas might have some trouble. They're beat up at some key spots. You don't have Quinn Ewers, Hudson Card limping around. You lost Xavier Worthy, in the first half of that game. You didn't have DeMarvion Overshown for a half. So they're not necessarily walking wounded across the board, but they are in some really, really important spots. And I know some Texas fans maybe want to jump off the deep end after that one, but I'm not there. I don't think this is a reason to panic. I still look at this Texas team, despite that loss, as a team that looks to me like they're playing at a higher level than they were last year. Now, that makes these next few weeks really important. They've got to win this game against West Virginia this week. Obviously, how they fare against Red River, that's a rivalry game. You never know. But they're going to have to bounce back in a hurry, because the one thing that is concerning if you're a Texas fan is you coughed up a double-digit lead. And what was the thing that really triggered their 6-game losing streak last year? It was coughing a double digit.
Sam, like you said, they could slide pretty quickly if they don't beat the Mountaineers. But does the Quinn Ewers injury give them mulligan's probably not the right word, but it just feels like that's going to be the kind of mulligan in a way of like no matter what they do, it's like, yeah, well, Quinn Ewers is injured, and I know he might be back sooner rather than later. But do you get that sense at all?
Yeah, I think so, because I think we all saw what he looked like against Alabama in the short time he was in the game. There's a difference throwing the ball downfield with Quinn Ewers than there is in Hudson Card. Hudson's good in the short and intermediate game, but Quinn is a better downfield passer, and that is so integral to Steve Sarkisian's offense. So much of what they do well. We guys remember what that Alabama offense looked like in 2020. Obviously, it's a lot better players across the board, but Sark likes to throw it downfield, and Quinn's the better guy for that. And the other thing is as admirably as Hudson Card has performed, again, he's limping around. He was noticeably limping in the second half of that game. He was noticeably limping against UTSA, and still, to his credit, taking off and running when the field would open up. So that's a difficult situation to be in for them for sure. And again, they lost Worthy, and then they also lost, and we don't really talk about this one, but they lost Isaiah Nair at the start of the year, who was a transfer from Wyoming, who was going to be another deep threat for them. So you're down Worthy, you're down Nair. You don't really have a guy that can stretch the field, nor do you have the quarterback who you thought you were going to stretch the field with.
Yeah, and I don't, for Texas fans, I don't mean mulligan in a bad way. It's just like it's very clear like they're not 100%. So even with the struggles, I know they want better, but it's like, yeah, but we don't have this guy who makes everything, really go the way we want it to. So just kind of an interesting dynamic there right now as they deal with some struggles. But you had a nice piece, Sam, in The Athletic on Joey McGuire, Texas Tech, their mindset when it comes to going forward on fourth downs. I know there's some Dave Aranda mentions, some lessons McGuire learned at Baylor as far as, going forward on fourth down and that aggressiveness. What did you kind of learn throughout that piece, and what were some of the highlights for you in writing it?
Yeah, I'm glad that we finally got to do this, because I've actually been wanting to do this topic for a while, ever since Baylor started having so much success last year. And I asked Dave Aranda about this at the Texas High School Coaches Convention, because I'll never forget his first year at Texas. And Dave, I think went back and looked it up and saw a tweet about you being a little bit exasperated by Dave punting on the Texas 30-yard line on fourth down in the first year that in a loss in 2020. I felt the same way, Dave. I was like, please tell me Dave Aranda's not one of these guys who puts deep on the plus side, because I'm very much an advocate for going for it on fourth down, certainly in the opponent's territory. But to me, with Aranda, another sign of his willingness to learn, evolve, and not necessarily get stuck in whatever it is that he's learned for however long he's been coaching. And a lot of coaches, it's hard to do that. It's hard to admit, hey, I didn't get this right, I didn't do this right. And that 2020 season was a lot of hard lessons for Aranda, and just was one of them is hey, I've got to take a different approach to what I do as an offensive football team and what I do strategically in game. And when Joey was there with them, they sat in on all these sessions with championship analytics that they do every week. And Dave Aranda and his staff had them every week, and Joey loved it. And so when he took the job at Texas Tech, he's like, hey, I'm going to incorporate this into my program. And I thought it was critical to Texas Tech being able to upset Texas. The thing that I think the number that stood out to me the most, other than them going for a fourth down and getting it 6 of 8 times, was the fact that Texas was on the field for 23 extra plays after fourth down conversion. But Texas Tech ran 100 plays to Texas' 60, and Texas defense wore down in large part because a quarter of those 100 plays, or almost a quarter of those 100 plays, came after fourth down conversions. That is a heck of a anecdote to look at to see how Texas Tech was able to pull that upset.
Sam Conn, theathletic.com with us, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Again, appreciate his time as well. Now, when you look at other teams, and you mentioned this, there may be a team, who knows? Because it was always pretty much, and I know we can make the joke about Kansas and Texas, but there was always this, there's somebody and then somebody else falls apart. But who would you say right now, or will this weekend give us a better look at who are the top 5 or 6 teams in the conference with the separation games, Tech, K-State, Baylor, and Oklahoma State?
Yeah, I think so. And then we got OU going down to TCU as well. So this is going to be a really, really important week for us to learn. I think for instance, last week, Baylor going to Iowa State, I think we learned a lot about those teams there. We certainly learned a lot more about Baylor, who I was a little uncertain of after that BYU game in week 2. But yeah, I think this is going to be a week that we learn some of that. Oklahoma State, they're really good. They're in the top 10, but their schedule isn't really that great so far. They haven't really played anybody of significance. This is going to be that huge road test for them to go down to Waco and see what they can do against a really good Baylor team. TCU, again, schedule very light early on. They had Colorado and Tarleton State, and then the Iron Skillet game, obviously a big rivalry game. That's a good win for them, but how are they going to look against OU? How does OU bounce back after the loss to K-State? Those are all things. And then, of course, we're talking about Texas and West Virginia. If Texas is going to be in this mix, they got to win this game. And I'm curious to see how that plays out as well. But this is no doubt going to be a really, like you said, separation Saturday, so to speak, in the Big 12 to some degree.
Sam, thank you. Appreciate you jumping on with us. Always enjoy what you have on your Twitter timeline. And, of course, we appreciate you jumping on the show whenever you can.
And for those with an athletic sub, definitely check out that piece if you're interested in the going for it on fourth down and from Baylor to Tech. Really interesting and good stuff there, Sam. Good read.
No problem, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That's Sam Conn, theathletic.com. Max, by the way, joins us Thursdays, most every Thursday. He'll be with us tomorrow. And then later today, Jon Machota, athletic.com, on the Cowboys and their 2-1 start.
Yeah, I want to try to kind of explain what I was saying there with Texas. Do y'all get what I'm saying and where I'm coming from? It's not that there's an excuse. Mm-hmm. It's just that, everybody rushes to get down on them as soon as they lose a game, like, ha, Texas. And, like, I've done it before as well. But, you do have to realize, like, their whole center of their team basically is gone right now. So while it feels like same old Texas, it is, but it's not It's not to the level of like, hey, we got to fire Sark because we're losing these. It's like, yeah, you're losing games, but there's a reason to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's the same thing when they win a game.
No, I know.
Like, oh my God, you know. And so
I don't think they're as bad as their record indicates. Is what I'm trying to say.
I agree with you, Craig. And look, Texas was how I was raised. But you can blame Pete for that one. But I do think that this is different than Charlie Strong and Tom Herman having their full allotment of guys that they said, these are the guys that we want to play, healthy and all. and then falling on their face. This is not having the full allotment of the guys that you said, this is what we're building this team around. This is an injured roster. And if you think Sark's in trouble because the quarterback that he was thrilled to get in the transfer portal is injured.
Once in a lifetime QB that they touted. Yeah.
I mean,
until Arch. Yeah.
And we did see flashes of what he could do early against Alabama. Yeah.
But you lose your starting quarterback. I mean, nobody I do think sometimes people think about, Ohio State a few years ago where they lost, their top two quarterbacks and Cardale Jones just led the charge. That is so rare. Even with teams like Texas, I mean, it's just rare. The reason Hudson Card was not the starter because he was not the best guy. So they're going to be a little bit worse when Quinn Ewers plays. They're not 1 and 1A. And coaches who say they have 1 and 1A are mostly lying.
Okay, I think if they go lose to West Virginia and they lose the games after that, I'm not saying it's total mulligan and excuse time, but I'm just saying that their record right now as they sit is not indicative of who they really are because they are missing a giant piece. Now, if they go lose 6 more games, I don't care who's hurt. That's all on Sark's head, but it's just not as grave as maybe it feels coming out of a loss to Tech this weekend.
I like the way they played. I didn't see that as much against Texas Tech. The defense didn't have that same run to the ball mentality that we saw against Alabama. I'll say this, though. When you are, and it's not their fault, but at the same time, the fan base loves to also say, hey, we're the number 2 class in the ratings or number 5 or whatever. It's really the rating services that do that. We've seen what A&M's offense has come out with all the big-time players they've been able to get, not only commit but signed. But I think that's what also feeds that, hey, you've been a top 10 recruiting class for the last 30 years. Injuries happen. Now, again, anybody who loses their starting quarterback, it's going to hurt. You still have Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson.
Yep.
The offensive line has many high-level stars as they have. They're incredibly young.
You have Gary Patterson basically working a teacher assistant job behind the scenes. He's like a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator.
All year to prepare for Bryce Young in Alabama. I don't think that you'll see them fall apart, break apart. Some people will disagree. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Whether it's with Ewers or whoever it might be, with Card, or if they just go straight Wildcat.
Say what you said about Alabama again.
They had an entire year
what do you think
prepare
Gary
for that game against Alabama.
What do you think Gary Patterson was doing other than writing songs?
That's why he was hired.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't have to have that ability to hire a guy who can sit in a room and watch Alabama and work up a game plan and not have to worry about anything else. All the rest of the defensive staff can do your week to week. When you have that guy who can sit in the lab, so to speak, and work up the game plan, that's a great advantage to have. And they'll continue to have that as long as he's there. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good reason why they played so well against Alabama.
He could be retired and still working on how to game plan Baylor.
Yeah.
He just because he did
he
it.
will. Yeah, I'm sure.
All right.
It's already, he's working on it now.
Do you have that picture from the sand? This is from the 940. Ralph Waite, I believe that's how you say the name, and just text us to our text line 254-339-1122. You'll get a kick out of this, Paul, since you were there. Enjoying the show from the beach on Maui. Not to worry, we'll be back in time for sick OSU. So Ralph is in Maui. Good for you. We appreciate that.
I'm going to say that wasn't. I was going to say that wasn't where the Hurricanes were, clearly. That was a much calmer beach than we saw a few minutes ago. So, yeah, enjoy that.
Yeah, okay. All right. Now, when we come back, we're not done. At 4:30, we'll hear from Robert Allen. He covers Oklahoma State. 573. A month ago in your Pitt segment, I asked if Pitt running back Israel Abanikanda will be hit 1,200 yards. After 4 games, he leads the ACC, and I hope I got the name correct, 500 yards, 7 touchdowns. He now enters the easy part of the schedule and should be the dark horse for the Heisman Trophy. I have not heard his name. That doesn't mean he's not up there. Obviously, Kenny Pickett was a part of some of that conversation last year.
Yeah, I haven't heard Abanikanda mentioned as far as the Heisman, at least just in what I've been reading. But no, I mean, an incredible start. I think Pitt has been, when I've caught them a couple times, a really fun team to watch. And I know that, obviously the mindset was less Kenny Pickett throwing billions of touchdowns to Jordan Addison, and more of wanting to be like this, Pat Narduzzi. And so, Abanikanda has definitely benefited from that, and good call on your part because he's off to a terrific start.
Yeah, when he says the easy part of the schedule, sometimes fans can kind of
Was that FSU?
No. They wouldn't play until the championship game if FSU, if either of them got there.
I thought he was taking a jab or something.
No. Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Louisville, North Carolina would be tough. Syracuse undefeated right now. Virginia, Duke, and Miami to end the season. And who knows what kind of shape everyone's going to be in.
What's North Carolina done since giving up all those points that they did early on? I know.
Well, they lost to Notre Dame this week, but they're 3-1. Yeah.
Well, how many points have they allowed? They gave up a bunch in that crazy game with Appalachian State, right?
Yeah, they gave up 61 in that game. They've allowed 24 to Florida A&M, 28 to Georgia State, and 45 to Notre Dame.
Yeah. Okay. All right. When we come back, we're not done. We'll focus again on Oklahoma State and Baylor. We focused in on a lot of the Big 12 games coming up this weekend and some that may be getting overshadowed because there's a couple of teams, 4 teams. Oklahoma State not coming off a win, but had a chance to sit back and go, we didn't have to be a part of that, but they want to be a part of it, and they will with that game in Waco coming up. Don't forget tonight at 10:30, the CW Channel Sports tonight right here from 365 Sports. This is 365 Sports, and we're back in a moment. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you feel better, look better, perform better. PettyClinicLowT.com is in Waco. Go online if you would like to contact him. And what he can do is find out if your testosterone levels are too low, which also then kickstart and also create problems if it's too low for your sex drive, for ED, for your sleep habits, for body fat, even muscle, and then even the fact of your energy, and you just don't feel the same. Sometimes that's just because you've been through a tough time, or you're also just, you're not taking care of yourself. But testosterone inside the body, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have issues with low testosterone. He can find out if that's the case and then help you out. Go to PettyClinicLowT.com, contact him, email, phone number, top left-hand corner, tell him I sent you. He and his staff will set up for you to get your blood work, lab results. He will get the evidence, he will get the numbers, and if your testosterone level is too low, then he can put you in a program to increase it and help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
When we need information on Oklahoma State, we love having Robert Allen, sideline reporter, has his own show, of course, as well. And Robert Allen joins us on 365 Sports. Well, Craig mentioned this week, Robert. Saturday when they play will be exactly 365 days from when they played in Stillwater. And, of course, we've seen 2 really good football games and might see a third.
No, I think we will. I didn't realize it was 365. I knew it was pretty close. That's your motto? Do y'all have a special? Is there a special ticket promotion or special subscription promotion?
Well,
for Sikkim 3, you should.
Yeah, we're trying to get seats sold in the berm. I think there's some kind of promotion that we're doing on the website for 365.
Okay. All right. Well, no, I think it's a flip a coin game. I think obviously Vegas thinks that too with the point spread they put on it. So, I think this will be a heck of a competitive game. The thing that the 2 teams are coming into it very differently. Baylor's been tested. Went out to Provo and got beaten double overtime and played really well last week in Ames. That's a tough place to go win. I think, in fact, it was Oklahoma State that the Malcolm Rodriguez pick 6 game in 19 was the last time Iowa State had lost at home until Baylor took it to them last Saturday. And Oklahoma State, it's been kind of a country club life. I mean, I thought Central Michigan was pretty good, and I think that's kind of been proven that they're pretty good. Arizona State was came in here kind of a dumpster fire, and it only got worse. And then Pine Bluff is what it is. So this team hadn't proven much yet. They'll get the chance to do that Saturday in Waco.
Does that worry you a little bit, Robert?
It would if it were, and there are some young players, but not that many. I mean, even in the secondary and the linebacker, where they've had a pretty good makeover from last year's defense. Mason Cobb is a junior. Xavier Benson started a year at Texas Tech and was the player of the year and was an All-American in JUCO last year on defense. In the secondary, Jason Taylor was a starter last year, and Thomas Harper has been a part-time starter, and Sean Michael Flanagan's a fifth-year senior starting for the first year. And then the 2 corners, Jabbar Muhammad and Corey Black, have played a lot. In fact, they kind of were the guys against Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. They had the second half, and some of those guys who were older sat. Coaching staff felt they were the 2 best corners at that point. So, if it were a younger team, Smokey, I would panic. It's not a young, and even on offense, it's not a bunch of young pups. They've been through this. They just haven't been through it yet this season.
Robert, there was one of the Baylor players in the media session yesterday was talking about how their goal is to not give up 100 yards rushing, and so far through 4 games they have not given up 100 yards rushing. I know Spencer Sanders is the engine in the offense, and he can certainly contribute to that run game. But what have you made of Dominic Richards and Sanders and the full plethora of the Pokes rushing attack?
You know, I feel I came into the season. I think I may have said this when I was either at Big 12 Media Days or even during fall camp. I think you guys had me on, and I said biggest concern for me on this football team is who's going to run the football. I mean, I knew Spencer would run it some, but he's not going to be your. I mean, you don't want him to lead you in rushing. You want him to be the second or third leading rusher and augment the rushing attack. Dominic Richardson was the guy, and he showed me in the Arizona State game. He rushed for well over 100 yards. At halftime, he came in with an ankle injury, and the trainer told me we're going to evaluate him at halftime and figure it out. And I thought in my mind going to the locker room, if he doesn't come out the second half, I'm still worried. If he comes out the second half and plays well, that'll alleviate it. He did the latter. He came out the second half, played well, and they were running the clock out. So Arizona State knew they were running the football, and Dominic was rushing through them pretty good, even on a bad wheel. So, and he's rested now. He hardly, I don't know if he carried 4 or 5 times against Pine Bluff, and then they have the open week. So he's very, very well rested. And then I'm anxious to see how much Ollie Gordon will play. He's shown some real glimpses of being a really good back. And gosh, he's a big kid. The Euless Trinity freshman. He's 6'1", 215, 20 pounds, and pretty quick. Catches the ball well. So I'm anxious to see him and him get some chances. But I go into this thinking Dominic's the man.
Is Spencer Sanders better, and is it because of yet another year of experience or something else?
Spencer Sanders is better because, the longer you do this, the better you should get at it. He's extremely talented, but I'm not going to get defensive. I do sometimes. And, the biggest thing this week among OSU fans, I've had so many people come up and say, well, if Spencer will protect the ball, we'll be good. That's all we need. Just protect the ball. Well, let me tell you something. There's a kid up at K-State named Adrian Martinez that heard that enough that the first 3 games, even though they won several of them for K-State, he protected the ball. I mean, Matt Walters, their sideline guy, is one of my best friends. And Matt's like, man, we can't get this guy to throw the ball downfield. He's gun shy. He didn't want to take a chance. And finally, I think Chris Kleiman told him before the game last week with OU, look, if you don't cut it loose and make some plays, we're going to have to go somebody else. We can't have that. Well, Spencer's never had that. Even when the fans say, 4 interceptions, and if you go back and look at the 4 interceptions, 2 of them were tipped. One of them was blatant, but there was a pass rusher right in his face. And the other one was probably the dumb decision. So, 2 of the 4 you can pin on him, and maybe half of the one where he got rushed, give Baylor credit for making a good play. But you got to give the defense credit sometimes. But Spencer doesn't listen to that. He loves the offense the way it is right now. They go fast. He's better. Some guys aren't better when they go fast. He's better when they're going fast. And his teammates have a tremendous amount of confidence in him. And I don't ever want him to get that. I really don't want him to get the yips. I don't want him to feel like, oh, man, I got to be careful. Spencer being careful is the Cowboys getting beat. Spencer playing free and making plays is this offense winning games. That to me is the difference.
Robert, is that the catalyst for them kind of – they're not all the way back to doing what they were doing years ago, spreading it out and wide open, but they've pivoted back to more of some of that stuff in the game. Is that because it's just, let's let Spencer grip it and rip it a little bit?
That he's good at it, and they've got good receivers. Getting Braden Johnson back when they didn't expect him. Everybody thought his career was over because of a medical condition. He got a reprieve, and he's treating this like it's a miracle from God. And he appreciates it, and he's the fastest player on this team. If you line up the 10 fastest guys and run them in 100, number 8's going to win. Probably not by much, but he's going to win. He is a one fast son of a gun. So you've got those weapons outside. Bryson Green's good. Jaden Bray has missed the season up till now, but he's practicing again. I think he's good to go. Then you got the Presleys. You got John Paul Richardson. There's just a lot of receiver weapons that if you don't throw it around and get loose with it out there, you're wasting talent on your team. And so, and I think guys, going into this, I try and put my mind, my head in Ron Roberts' head. If I'm him, I'm playing probably a light box and saying, look, we'd rather you, let's see if you can run. Let's see if you can run. Let's see if you can push Ika and Player. And I'm guessing they didn't play them until conference together, but if you don't put both those two dudes inside, you better have your head examined. But no, I think they'll try and say, OSU, you want to run it? Show us you can run, because I think they're gonna play back and say, look, we're not giving. OSU's hit home run balls in all 3 games, multiple home run balls. I think Baylor's going to say, no, not today, and I think they'll play back and expect their front and the linebackers, especially Doyle. He's a good physical linebacker against the run. Let them try and take care of that. Let those guys keep OSU from running downfield and see if they can win that way.
Robert, through 3 games, I think the last time we talked to you was right before the season started, and we talked a little bit about just Derek Mason and how he was fitting in, but what have been your impressions of the defense through just these first 3 games?
You know what? He's kind of kept it vanilla, which is understandable against the 3 teams they played. And they got thrown for a loop by Central Michigan. Central Michigan came out looking like the San Francisco 49ers of, Bill Walsh days. They ran a West Coast offense, and their quarterback got it out of his hands. Man, I mean, I don't think he ever held it 2 seconds until the second half. And they had some success with it. Here's the other thing that concerns me. They had a couple of pretty good tight ends, and they had success going just dump balls to the tight end and shallow crosses to the receivers, and took the OSU defensive line out of it. And the guys didn't really get their hands up. Since then, when that's been repeated, the linemen have deflected a number of balls because they've got their hands up so they can at least have some impact. But the linebackers were lost in that Central Michigan game. So that's really been the biggest thing that Mason's had to repair is let guys, here's how we treat a quick game or a West Coast offense. And I kind of expect Baylor's capable of that. Those tight ends, Sills, Dabney, there's some conviction in my part, that Dylan Doyle may be an offensive player as well as he plays when they put him over there. Doesn't drop anything, and he's a hell of a blocker. So yeah, Baylor's capable of doing what so far teams have done and hurt Oklahoma State with. And so that's been the biggest thing for Mason is correcting that, making sure that they can defend that type of attack. And then I think you'll see some of his personality come out now once you get into conference play.
Looking forward to watching Corey Black come home, who's obviously been a heck of a player with Oklahoma State from Conley High School.
The least you guys could have done is have Conley play a home game Friday, so I could have gone to that.
I know.
Instead, they're up in Stringtown. You got to be kidding me.
I know.
Kill me with that. Because I want to see the kid that's committed to OSU, McDonald.
Yeah, July. He's hurt right now.
Hey,
He
against La Vega at the end of the game, and they beat La Vega, which was an upset. 2 schools 5 minutes from each other. He kind of maybe dinged up his ankle. I think he came back in to help him. And then against the next couple of weeks, I don't know about whether he's playing against Springtown. It's a non-district game, but he's obviously very, very, very good.
He's a stud. Yeah, he's a stud.
Y'all forget I was born in Waco. I know these Waco high schools.
I know, and we love it. But Corey Black, how good has he been? He made some plays in that Big 12 championship game.
No, he's been really good. Like I told you guys, it was he and Jabbar Muhammad that defended the house in the Fiesta Bowl. And, remember, it was the 2 games, different types of offense, but in both the Big 12 championship and the Fiesta Bowl, both games, OSU gave up a lot in the first half. And in the second half, the defense settled down and, for the most part, shut the other offense down. And they did that with Black and Muhammad on the field. So, and not that those other corners weren't good. I mean, I think they were all in NFL camps. But no, Corey Black's he's the most athletic of the two. And Jabbar Muhammad is like a little bulldog you can't get rid of. I mean, he's biting your knees off. So I love that kind of player. We've had several corners like that during Mike Gundy's days here. That half of it's just determination. And he's a DeSoto kid, so he was well coached coming up and tested. But no, I think the corners are good. I think Oklahoma State will be okay. I just want to make sure. I just would like to know how they're going to handle the tight end. I think with Chapin's a smart guy. They'll put a nice little pass scheme together, and they'll test the Oklahoma State linebackers.
Robert, I know that Coach Gundy addressed the end of Bedlam. I'm not going to ask you to rehash that, but Oklahoma State in this whole move to the SEC is the only team who's legit losing their biggest rival. Everyone else, can say that, oh, yeah, we're Texas, our biggest rival, but Texas doesn't care about them. Oklahoma State's the only one who's losing theirs. Who would you like to see take that spot? Could it be Baylor if this continues going that way?
Yeah, I got asked that today on my radio show, and I said Baylor. Texas Tech has always said they hate Oklahoma State. I think, they think that Oklahoma State stole their hand sign and
they hate everybody, Robert.
Yeah, I know they do. Hey, if you lived in Lubbock, you'd hate everybody too.
Yeah.
Oh my God! That's Robert Allen. Robert Allen from.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, but no, I think the other two would be K-State and Iowa State, because Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Iowa State are like three peas in a pod. They're the agriculture, engineering schools in their state. They each have had to deal with the University of, probably K-State less than anybody lately, because I think in Kansas in football, K-State's the University of. Although give Kansas credit, they're coming back in a vengeance. But any one of those four, I think, K-State, Iowa State, maybe Tech. But right now, Baylor would be the best option, because these have been the two best teams. And usually if you get to be the two best teams, that kind of automatically becomes the rivalry. So, yeah, I could see that happening. Here's the other thing. I'm going to be real interested in seeing how the four new schools interact. I mean, I could see you guys at BYU, just because you had a jump on this thing and played them twice in a row. I could see that being a rivalry. And it's also two, religious-based schools. Oklahoma State used to have a little deal going with Houston, and boy, there were some knockdown drag-outs. And now that Dana's down there and he coached here, and our fans, half of them are still in love with Dana. So it'll be interesting to see what those four new schools. I can't see UCF or Cincinnati being, your arch rival, but you guys stole you didn't steal our president. You've got a president that went to our school.
That was a pretty good get.
There were some people where it was a very good get. There were some people that thought Linda would eventually be the president here, and that when OSU's deal became open, Linda would just tell Baylor, "Thank you, it's been fun," and she didn't. She said, "No, I'm a Baylor Bear," and we ended up with Dr. Casey Strum, and right now no one's paid her back, especially the head football coach.
Yeah, yeah. You've talked about that president, board, AD, football coach.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
Robert, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. As always, we'll see you Saturday. Robert Allen, sideline for Oklahoma State. Great guy, very opinionated, but also incredibly insightful on a lot of what not only Oklahoma State does, but also the opponents, including this week, Baylor.
Yeah, I just happened to see a tweet earlier today that was, I guess it was because of Dodd had put out that expansion article, so it kind of drummed up all that conversation. And Kansas, I feel like, is a fan base where there's always somebody who's mentioning them as like a Big Ten possibility down the line. Oklahoma State gets mentioned, but probably not enough, right? Like, I feel like that's a pretty that would be. I know it's Stillwater, and I'm not talking trash, but like, I don't know. It's a very solid school, and they kind of get mentioned, kind of don't get mentioned. I can't imagine Oklahoma would want them, joining the SEC anytime soon. But that's one of those brands that, I think along with Baylor and BYU and Cincy and the whole crew, if Kansas can really be a two-power school with both football and basketball, I mean, there's a lot of things to like about the new Big 12, and I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I certainly think that Oklahoma State's one of those prime targets if things were to really blow up again in the future, like super expansion. I think that would be a team that you'd have to look at. But yeah, I mean, they're going to be one of those torchbearers, I think, for the new Big 12, and I can't wait to see the latest round between them and the Bears, because over the last year at least, it's been a lot of fun. As much of a roller coaster, it's been a lot of fun and carried a lot of headlines for the conference.
I would think they would be somebody that absolutely people would be interested if it gets to that point. They also have a great draw in Dallas, but a lot of teams in the Big 12 do. Tech, Baylor, and of course, we know what Oklahoma and Texas do there. All right, thanks to Robert Allen. Great to have him on. He's just a fun guy to be around as well. So we'll be open now for a while. We are going to get into a little bit of the Baylor women's basketball coach Nikki Collen was a part of the opening of, hey, the season begins. Garrett's going to be covering them for us this year, and a couple of other things. A lot of you have asked us about what Kim Mulkey may have said. She's at LSU. That's, but we have some thoughts about it. We'll get into that. And I wanted to wait until I was able to talk to somebody about a little bit of background between Kim and Brittany outside of what everyone thinks they know before we discussed it, but we will. And not everybody's going to agree, and some people get really angry, and we'll do that, and we'll have that early on in the 5 o'clock hour, plus then Jon Machota on the Cowboys. This is 365 Sports. High school, football, or maybe college. Mainly you think about the tailgating, although I mentioned last week what Texas Farm Bureau Insurance did at the Lorena game when they handed out that Lone Star Cup trophy to the Leopards. Tailgating, burgers, hot dogs, for example, sausage and more. Well, Waco Custom Marketplace is a great place and is a go-to place for anyone that tailgates. For example, this weekend, Baylor's at home against Oklahoma State. It's 2:30, perfect time. Tailgate throughout the morning, tailgate in the early afternoon, tailgate after the game is over. Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for that. But they also have some weekly specials for just what you want to cook perhaps at home. Beef short ribs, $4.89 a pound. Chuck roast, $3.75 a pound. Pork steak, $1.99 a pound. Country style pork ribs, $1.99 a pound. And some of this can be tailgating food, of course, as well. Chicken breast for $2.50 a pound. Frog legs. Maybe when they play TCU for $5.50 a pound, ring bologna at $4.99 a pound. It's Waco Custom Marketplace. They have a bakery with all the sweets and treats you want, and they also have a butcher shop, beef, pork, poultry, and also seafood. Brisket, tri-tip, again, burgers, hot dogs, sausage, chicken wings. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, during Ram Power Days, shop the year-after-year award-winning new 2022 Ram 1500, designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. This is a truck that's legendary. Get the first-class feel and luxurious leather trim seating options, exceptional legroom and storage, plus surround view camera options you'd expect from a premium truck. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop for Ram trucks. Visit today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nikki Group Insurance Agency. With the Nikki Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nikki Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nikki Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Aaron Alley, $10 super chat. How y'all doing? We're doing well. We appreciate you and the $10 super chat. Has a University of Houston logo. We haven't heard from Juan in a while. Not like a while. I don't know if Juan was a part of it in and out yesterday. Or Monday?
Yeah, I think the excitement in Houston's died off a little bit since the season started. I think that's probably a big reason why. Maybe he's just busy with other stuff. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, I was expecting a big year for the Cougars, and it is anything but that at this point. In fact, I would love to know from Houston fans of kind of what your reaction right now and feeling is surrounding Dana Holgorsen, because, honestly, it kind of feels like almost like, are they going to have to think about doing something in the relatively near future if it goes this way still, or continues on this path where it's just kind of very, I don't know, like uptight and angsty and just off kilter. And I don't know.
This isn't just losing a couple games, right? I mean, this is when you're losing a game, you've got guys fighting on the sideline.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Like those things happen when you've got tension there. And let's go back to a couple years ago when they stashed everybody in their red shirt years and they tried to do that with De'Aaron King and they still lost him. So like the things that have been going on at Houston are not conventional in a lot of different ways. So they're trying to, we're going to be bad this year. We've got some injuries. Let's stash all these red shirts. And then they lost a lot of them in the transfer portal anyway. So it's been a little bit of a roller coaster for them. I know that they like Dana Holgorsen and that, Tillman Fertitta especially like Dana Holgorsen, but how long before you kind of can't just ride that roller coaster anymore?
I think the good thing for them, the saving grace, is that the only time they've really been blown out was the Kansas game. But other than that, it was a one-score game against Rice. But then again, that was a game that you had to win by a score against Rice, which for a team that you've set up, as you said, Paul, like this was supposed to be the run. I still go back to them losing out to McCaskill was a killer. That was a killer in the offseason. I can't wait to watch him run again. But still, like, you weren't expecting heading into this year with Clayton Tune, a super senior quarterback, and, you know, just what you felt like you sort of had building to eke one out against Rice. Now, hey, maybe give credit to the Owls too, right? But, you know, when you did have the situation the week prior to that, or was a couple weeks ago with the fighting on the sideline, that was just a terrible look. I mean, that was just an awful look, and I guess they've squared all that away. But they got the OT win over UTSA. They got the 7-point win over Rice. They barely lost in overtime to Texas Tech. And they got, you know, beat up by Kansas, but there's no shame in that this year. So they could be 4-0, or I guess, 3-1, probably at their best, and 0-4 at their worst.
How many teams that are in Power 5 conferences have played the Houston schedule?
Yeah, no, it's a good schedule.
And we're not trying to say it's against Georgia and Alabama, but again, how many teams in a Power 5, or even those who are like Notre Dame and Brigham Young outside of a Power 5 conference, have played who Houston has played? Now, that doesn't mean you can lose, but it's pretty darn good.
It's great. It's fine.
Especially with Kansas rising up the way they have.
I think the issue is then when you barely beat Rice. Now, granted, if Rice comes out and turns out to be a pretty good team, then okay, you can chalk that up. But just in my brain, the way that it's wired, they have not been that for like a really long time. And that's not, and that would be the game you feel like you let all your frustrations out. And I know there's a lot that goes into, the injuries and just all the different, obstacles and adversity. But when I saw that little sideline tiff, even though that's, now in the rear view, that just felt like a program that was about to burst at the seams. And so maybe it's settled down since then, but that's why I'm curious to hear from Houston fans, because I've definitely seen my fair share who are not in on Holgo and who feel like it's just a matter of time before, the house burns down. And let's not forget, like, the gasoline he threw on with his post-game comments here recently, where that really lets you know, like, okay, even if they win a game, it's not exactly great in H-Town right now, when he's in the post-game talking about, what was his quote?
That's that, like...
What was it he said, though? It was...
Wasn't it something to do? I'm not going to take...
I'm tired of talking to you're trying to motivating players. And he
also said something about, I'm not going to be the one that takes accountability for some of the things that we did.
Yeah, it was weird comments, like about, being just tired of having to motivate his guys. And that added a little bit to it, where you're like, okay, so I wasn't tripping when I just overreacted to the sideline thing and some other things that have popped up in some tweets that I've seen. That just, like I said, poured some more gasoline on it. So Houston fans out there, is it all good, or is there actually like a little bit of, I don't know, man.
We have a super chat, 10 again.
Wow.
From
awesome.
Aaron
Thank
Alley.
you.
I'm a Houston fan, but if we keep Dana Holgorsen and the coaching staff going into the Big 12, I think we will be horrible.
Okay.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate the opinion.
Yeah, that's what I asked for, and didn't ask for the 10, but thank you for that. I appreciate it.
There are the rare occasions where Pat Knight, the coach, a basketball coach, can call out some players because of some things that are going on, and it's okay. But to kind of say I'm not going to take the responsibility or the, to do a certain thing. When you're a college football coach, and Craig, I know you'll get this reference, but at the end of the Dark Knight, Batman took the heat for a murder because he could take it, because he had to. Well, when you're the coach, you got to be Batman. I mean, you have to be the guy who can take the heat. Like, yes, these things are going on. It's under your watch. Could he be right that he doesn't have to take the blame for some things? Yes, but guess what you have to do? You don't have to say that. You just have to say, yeah, we'll get that fixed. The responsible parties will deal with that. But saying that I'm not going to do it, that's letting your emotions get the better of you, because your job is, sadly, as the head coach, even things that aren't really your fault.
If your kids act up, and we've seen this before, if your kids act up, they get a fight on the side, something's missing.
Yeah,
and it might just be pure, you have to blow a gasket, and you just hope it doesn't get to be what we saw a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I think that's the concern, is that he seems like he's always about to blow a gasket. He's always hopped up on Red Bull, and it always seems like he's at that breaking point level just in general. But yeah, I looked for his exact quote: tired of yelling at them, tired of motivating, tired of all that crap. That's what he said. Now, that's not, horrible by any means. That's clearly just frustration and letting frustration go. But yeah, I wonder how much that frustration is building up. They have played a tough schedule, though. I just think everybody kind of expected them to be in a better spot. But, hey, there's a long way to go. We'll see. But, yeah, I was curious just kind of on the temperature check with Holgorsen and Houston fans and how they were feeling about that. And so thanks to what you say, was it Juan that you said?
Aaron Alley.
I think that, okay. Aaron, I don't know why I got that so confused, but I do appreciate your feedback because, I mean, y'all know better than anybody. You're down there and you're fans of the program and you know kind of what the deal is.
Aaron, you can contact us. We do appreciate it. It's now 10-10 and now 5.
Oh, wow.
I would like to see the University of Houston bring Tom Herman back. Who, again, he left because there was that opportunity at the University of Texas. It was hard for him to turn down. And I don't know if he's getting back into college coaching or if he's going to be a head coach anytime soon. But we appreciate, again, $25 from Aaron. You don't have to do that every time, but we do appreciate it.
Hey, Herman basically launched what's going on at Tech right now and like what's kind of the UTSA vibes as well. Not that he was a Texas high school coach that rose the ranks like a Jeff Traylor or a Joey McGuire, but it just kind of feels like that program that just does things a little bit differently because they're not a part of like the big party, you know what I mean? And they just go and get really good players who aren't necessarily 4 and 5 stars constantly, but they get like a little share of that too. And it's, I don't know, just fun offense, nasty defense. I kind of think of him in that same mold. And then those thoughts really dissipated when he went to Austin and it kind of turned into, you know, what you didn't want it to be if you were Texas fans, which was like not as gritty, at least it felt like. Well, some of his quirks kind of getting in the way at times. And I know that was also probably judged in some ways a little bit too harshly, his tenure there when you look back at it in hindsight. But Herman is definitely somebody I'm very curious about his goals and where he kind of sees himself, because I think it's a no-brainer that somebody hires him back in the college ranks if they can.
Well, there are places where your game works, where your thing works, and some places it doesn't. Look, Clay Helton was not the head coach at USC. Lincoln Riley can have that vibe. He can be the guy who can have the Oklahoma vibe because he's from West Texas and gets that. He can also be the SoCal guy because he's young and cool and hip. Clay Helton can go to Georgia State and win there and beat because he's from Memphis. He's from that's his vibe. Tom Herman, for all the things you think oh, this guy certainly has the Texas vibe. He didn't really. He didn't have it. He didn't know how to wrangle things there. And granted, the last 3 guys haven't known how to wrangle things there. And a couple guys before the guy who wrangled things there couldn't quite get it, in line. So, yeah, I don't think. But if it's Arizona State or Houston or something like that, I think Herman could do a great job.
And he does have, I know he's a California guy, but he does have plenty of Texas experience at this point, a lot of it. So I definitely think that, he could probably be a chameleon sort of anywhere, but the West Coast and down south seemed like safe bets.
Retired stockbroker on the Super Chat, $25.
Wow.
Craig, I'll give Hogo until this Friday. Eat him up from a Cougar alum.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Fair enough. Yeah, appreciate you.
Also, Dean on the chat room, and I see this, and I maybe if you weren't paying attention enough to what we were talking about with Sam Conn. Sam Conn not mentioning Tech was without their starting quarterback, starting linebacker, starting cornerback, etc. Poor UT missing Ewers. Also, Ewers is a total of 2 competitive series on tape, guys. Dean, I don't know if anyone who's written more stories about Texas Tech and Joey McGuire, and incredible stories that Sam Conn has done, at least outside of maybe Lubbock. He was asked about Texas. It was about UT. He gave Texas Tech plenty of credit, maybe not as much as you want. So I wanted to explain that because sometimes we look for, oh, my God, he's not talking about Baylor. How come he's not talking about Texas? How come he's not talking about TCU? And I don't think that Sam was trying to offend or be completely giving Texas an out for losing in Lubbock.
Yeah, and he could very well be. I see the. Okay, that was part of his name, the LOL part. But yeah, you could very much you could be talking about my comments more so than Sam's. And to clarify those comments again, it's not about Texas Tech because the point of my comments weren't about Texas Tech. I give them all the credit in the world for what they pulled off on Saturday in Lubbock. It was a very good win for Joey McGuire. But I was speaking to the Texas side of things, and I was one that asked the question about UT with Sam was, forget who they played as far as last weekend goes. Just in general, everybody's so ready to go and pour dirt on them because Texas. And look, I'm guilty of it as well. But I just think it's a little bit different this year because they did lose Quinn Ewers, and you have to take that into account. Now, would he have guaranteed won those games that he's missed? No. But would he have probably helped? Yeah, when you see a hobbled quarterback out there playing for them. So not giving them a mulligan on the record, but just saying it's not quite what it appears was the basic point of it when it comes to UT.
Aaron, Ashley, yet $2 more. I do it because I love what y'all are doing, and we appreciate you and retired stockbroker and all of you. And we do appreciate, Dean, you firing off your opinion, but I want to make sure we clarify that before we took on too much more.
I'm going to put a pretty fine point on this, and I think what Hudson Card's been doing has been very tough and gutsy, and it shows a lot about him, but the dude's going to be the quarterback at a different school next year. And if he was the dude, there wouldn't have been this need to go get Quinn Ewers, right? You wouldn't have had to really go get him. He was probably going to transfer from Ohio State anyway, but if Hudson Card was that dude, then they wouldn't really have to worry about it. He's fine, but he's a 2-2 quarterback right now. He was what he was last year. We know what Hudson Card is.
I think he has played admirably.
No, he has.
I really
he
do.
absolutely has. I think my biggest point overall, and I probably didn't state it well enough, was just that when people clown on Texas, it's not like if they were to lose a couple more games, it's not fire Sark. Like what I was basically saying is there's an excuse built in, whether it's as valid as you want to say or not, they are missing the piece that they were basically built around. So when you look at that record and it's got a third loss or a fourth loss, if that's what it goes to, I don't think that's when you go, oh, Sark's in trouble. I don't see it that way. I think he's got kind of a mulligan, like I said, on this year, barring them losing like 10 straight because of what happened with Ewers. That was my main point.
Joshua Tucker on the super chat. Not a super chat. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be. Tech should be ranked in your top 5 yesterday of teams that should be ranked. Did you include Tech?
No.
No, I did not.
Don't you think they should be on that? I know you can't have 6.
They lost to Houston.
No, they didn't.
No, they did.
They lost at NC State.
They lost NC State. No,
they beat Houston. They just beat Texas.
Who'd they lose to?
NC State.
NC State. Okay. Maybe. I don't know. Look, I can't have 6.
Knocking on the door.
No one's
top 5 is it?
Hey,
get off my
don't
sack,
be
man.
like Dean about Tech.
Just like, no, I didn't have him on there. They're close.
I asked you that question. Stop.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. I'm just.
Tech should be ranked 4 straight top 25 matches, only lost to a top 15 team. I was only going to bring it up. I asked because I wanted to remember if you had put them in the top 5 of teams that should be ranked. It's a 5. It's not 6. It's 5, not 9. But the 5 we put up yesterday, he wasn't even complaining about the top 5. I was asking you about that in case I had forgotten something.
Oh, I thought he was.
Yeah. No, he does. It's great. Everything's fine. All right. When we come back.
What in the world's going on here? All right.
When we come back, a couple of things. Nikki Collen on Brittany Griner. Some who liked what she said, some who didn't. Also Kim Mulkey, whatever she didn't say, some that didn't like it at all, and some that were fine with it. That's next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on now over at Richard Carr. They are the people that you can count on for not only a great deal, but also superior service for the life of your car as well, and great customer service no matter what you're trying to do, whether that's buying new or pre-owned or just checking out all the great deals that they have over at Richard Carr. And right now, they've got some trucks that are actually in stock. It's been a little while since I've been able to say that. They've had vehicles on the lot, but as far as new arriving, that's been a little bit more hit or miss thanks to supply chain issues and la-da-da-da-da. You know the rest, you know the drill there. But the wait's over. They've got GMC Sierras offering best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, advanced collision avoidance, luxurious interior that includes massive touchscreens, 14 camera views, and premium comfort. So trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. Get to the dealership and drive your next truck today. But if the exact truck or exact SUV is not on the lot, get on their inbound vehicle list, and you can cut in line for trucks that are in production but not quite in stock. You can let them help you design the exact truck or SUV you want, and Richard Carr will have GMC prioritize it for you. So new trucks on the lot, dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock. All of those have gone through a 172-point inspection, so a lot of offers, a lot of options, and dozens of lending options in particular. Richard Carr loves to say yes when others say no. So for 23 years in Central Texas, go to the dealership that's built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Run by Proud Waco's Proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now. Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy, last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select Choice and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Little trickeration back to the quarterback. Wide open is Gavin Holmes. Touchdown, Baylor, 38 yards. Nobody was in striking distance of Gavin Holmes.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Garrett, by the way, I just sent you another piece of audio that we might use as well. So, some have asked, why have you guys not discussed much about earlier this week, Nikki Collen and Baylor women's basketball? And they met with the media as they opened up practices. Scott Drew yesterday. Tomorrow we'll have Adam Flagler from Baylor coming off the injury, a tremendous player, part of the national championship team. But they haven't said much about what went down Monday when at an LSU press conference, Kim Mulkey was asked by Carlos Diaz about Brittany Griner, and she said she was not going to make the comment. That went immediately everywhere. about why would she not say anything, and there's a lot of story, this and that. Nikki Collen and Baylor met, and we're going to get into this a little bit. Nikki Collen and Baylor met on Monday, and I wanted to wait until I could cross-check some information that I remember from sometime in 2013 before I commented on it and we discussed it. But here's Nikki Collen.
Wow. You guys know, those that have been around me know I get pretty emotional. I think BG, first of all, is human first, you know, and I think this is a human rights issue. No one's saying she didn't make a mistake. None of us are perfect, you know, but I guess I would want to know if I did something and was stuck in a foreign country and what it was, what it wasn't. You know, I think we all know that 10 years is a long time. And, you know, I see her as a mother, as a sister, as a spouse, as a daughter, you know, as an unbelievable ambassador for the game of basketball. You know, I think there are people that have said, like, she kneeled. We can argue about kneeling or not kneeling all day long. Brittany Griner has worn that USA across her chest and won gold medals for this company or for this country. She's represented Baylor. You know, I know, I want to say it was Bella told me, like, she was one of her first idols, like a big part of like why, you know, she was Baylor, you know, and I absolutely know that there was a championship here before BG, but I mean, she made Baylor a household name, and you know, I didn't coach her, but I coached against her a lot. I game planned for her. And when you spend a summer in the bubble at IMG, you get to know everybody. And she was one of the first people to reach out to me when I got this job. And she was super excited about me getting the job, about coming, you know, us getting her back here. The goal is to get her jersey retired and hanging in the rafters. And so I just think about what it would be like to be away from my family for over 200 days. So that's to me first and foremost. Like, I think this is a humanitarian thing. We can argue if we want about whether what she did is grounds for a trade for an arms dealer. Like, I'm not, you know, I think there's a lot of arguments in play. I think what isn't in play, in my mind, is that we shouldn't be doing everything in our power to get Brittany home. I think we're talking about it. We were already talking about it last year. We've talked about doing it as a part of, you know, the new arena. And do we just basically, it's been a big deal to do it right by her. You know, I've been in contact with her agent since I got the job, and know Kagawa Colas well. And so, yeah, I mean, I think BG's family, like, she's Baylor family. So to me, anything we can do to help her and her family is important.
All right, so that's from Monday. There was the Kim Mulkey comment, or lack of one, about being asked about Brittany Griner. Now, hold on here. Here is an interview. Mike Scarborough from Tiger Bait. This is not his interview, but earlier in the year, Kim was on a show, I guess, with LSU Radio, whatever the show might be, and here's a comment. Well,
was it the show that she? Go ahead.
No,
sorry.
No, it wasn't with Jody. It was with LSU, some kind of LSU Radio. Here's what she said.
What has it been like for you to watch this from afar?
Well, I keep up with it like you guys do as far as what's in the national media. I don't make public comments about it. I think that's a personal issue that you just want everybody to come home safely. And, you know, I pray for Brittany. I want her home safely. I think there's lots of people speaking out on her behalf, and those of us who don't necessarily speak publicly about it certainly are praying for her.
All right, so that was earlier this week, and Mike Scarborough had somebody send him that. Now, listen, this is a very lightning rod, polarizing topic. There are some that no matter what, they're mad at Brittany because of what she said about the United States, or she kneeled. And there are some that Kim is a lightning rod. She says things. And listen, It's Scott Woodward at LSU who are dealing with it this time. Paul, there was a text about it, and we'll get to the text in a minute. One of the things that somebody took offense to Nikki was that when she said that Brittany was Baylor. Now, she was at the same time when she was at Baylor, RG3 was at Baylor, and those two were rock stars. Yes, there's a history in one of the texts from the 213 of Grant Taft and Mike Singletary, among others. Tell the story, and we're going to get into this. Tell the story about, let's start about, first of all, well, she's not Baylor. Tell the story about Bowling Green, Ohio, in a short amount of time.
Yeah, well, I flew from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Bowling Green, Ohio to cover from the men's game to the women's game in the NCAA tournament. And Bowling Green is not a big place. It should not have been hosting the NCAA women's tournament, and they got Baylor in the first round and in the first two rounds. Brittany was there. That was the 40-0 Rockstar team. I saw something I've never seen at a women's basketball game before ever, and it was little girls, 5 years old to 15, 16 years old, so teenagers all the way down to little girls, lined up around the building every time Baylor was practicing, playing, anything to see Brittany Griner. And no offense to those teams in the national championship team that won in 05 here at Baylor. She and Kim put Baylor back on the map. Brittany put them on a national map because she was the most different and powerful and just biggest problem of a women's basketball player on the court of anybody ever. Nobody ever seen anything like Brittany Griner. To me, to say that she didn't put Baylor on the map, yes, okay, I'll compare it. Kansas invented basketball, right? The University of Kansas. They literally invented basketball there. So their basketball team is automatically on the map. But you don't think Wilt Chamberlain put them more on the map? That's what Brittany Griner was to women's basketball. She's the Wilt Chamberlain, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar of women's basketball.
You were using the example because of this text, completely offensive to those that graduated from Baylor and know her tremendous history, but Grant Taft, Mike Singletary, RG3, the 04-05 national championship team. This lady, and he's speaking about Nikki, is way over the line. She needs to stay in her lane.
This lady needs to stay in her lane.
Yeah, to what made Baylor great. My goodness, how Baylor has fallen under its current leadership. This will not end well.
Oh, my God. What a terrible, awful text. I could not disagree more with that text. That is ridiculous. I probably shouldn't talk during this segment because I'm going to offend a lot of people.
Okay, that's okay. All right. Well, here's the thing.
That is garbage.
I wasn't a fan about people kneeling. We've discussed that back in the day. Sometimes the way you are raised, there's certain things that are in your blood, whether you're military brat, military family, or just nobody, just anybody. That's kind of we've been able to kind of somehow, not everybody, but move through that. I also have had military veterans who have told me the reason they went to Korea or Japan or wherever over the years or Afghanistan was so people had the right to do that. So we've discussed all that. So I spoke with somebody that would know. One of the issues, and this is not to give Kim credit for not saying anything, this is a little bit of a background. I don't know if anyone's ever told this story. After the Kate Fagan story and hit piece on Baylor and also Kim Mulkey that was about Brittany Griner, and a lot of what she said I'm sure is very, very true. But that took Baylor out at the knees, and I don't know if Kim Mulkey's ever responded or has ever really recovered from that one. She has also stuck her foot in her mouth in the past before. I'm not defending her. But I do know this. After that story was written by Kate Fagan, and I spoke with Kate at the Super Bowl in Houston about this, later on that year, not sure if it was the summer or when they were working out in the fall, Brittany Griner came back on campus. The women were practicing in the women's practice gym at the Farrell Center. Came into the gym, went to where Kim Mulkey was running practice, and put her arms around her. And it was awkward. It was quiet and it was awkward. They went on about practice, and after that time, Baylor, Kim Mulkey, and someone else within the athletic department met with Brittany Griner. Brittany, from what I'm being told, apologized to her, apologized to Kim Mulkey. What Kim Mulkey wanted Brittany Griner to do was publicly apologize for some of what she had said. Not to say that what the story was about was completely false, but she never did. That doesn't mean she had to. There was no demand, but that was what would have helped repair things because there were some things that were written that were true about Brittany and her life or whatever. I can also say this. One of the things that was said was, Coach, I'm sorry for something. You were good to me. That's not, anyone doesn't think, there's no one that I know of that, unless they know, realize that that was said, that was a part of a meeting. Again, I'm hearing it from who I can depend on, who would never, ever tell me otherwise. So there's some background here. That doesn't mean you can't wish somebody well who's in trouble and in prison and in Russia. And there's also some that would want to, you see sometimes Twitter, whatever else, that want to sit there and act like they care. And most of the people probably do, but there's also a little bit of that, well, I better act like I care because everybody else is looking at whether I care or not. It's a polarizing topic. From the 213 today, when I told him about the Brittany Griner Bowling Green story that, Paul, you had shared. And this is how a lot of people feel. And there's also some of you in the chat room that have said this before and some that don't agree with this. Let me clear it up for the cupcakes. I don't take joy in any American being in a foreign jail. That being said, I'm not as invested when a woke American hating left-wing snowflake with an overinflated ego because she gets paid to play basketball that no one watches gets arrested for breaking the laws in a foreign country. Maybe she will learn to appreciate what she has here. Kim Mulkey, according to him, has every right not to comment on it again.
She has the right not to do it now. But Kim has also never been really good at avoiding firestorms that are totally avoidable. And this was totally avoidable. Just say, look, I commented on it earlier in the summer. I don't want to get into it, but I always wish her the best. I hope she gets home.
If she said it on a radio show or whatever it was, she could also just say it then. Now, I also know her well enough. I haven't talked to her since the week before she left for the LSU job and won't probably ever again. And only because of what I know. She holds grudges. All of us do, but she holds one and grudges that I think are probably more difficult than anyone you may know. And you ask anybody. You could probably ask her. So this story, we can talk about kneeling. We can talk about what Brittany may have said or thought about the United States. I'm sure, yeah, she wishes she was back in the United States. Of course she is. But we were asked why we didn't discuss this. I wanted to tell you about, there is some background, not to give Kim any out for not saying something more than I'm not going to comment about Brittany, or not even that on Monday. But there's so much behind this story that's more than whether a coach is making a public comment or not. It again fell into Twitterverse with former players that played for both Kim Mulkey, recruited by Kim Mulkey, and played for Nikki Collen last year, blasting away at this. And then a former player, Alexis Morris, who was at Baylor, she was at Rutgers, she was at A&M, and now she's at LSU, started popping off at some of those players, and that got very ugly. And some of the players then informed Alexis that perhaps she needs to know more about the background of her as well. So it's unfortunate, and everything's unfortunate. But I wanted to make sure we at least discussed it a little bit on this show. Craig, did you want to say anything?
I don't think so. I think I probably should just keep my words to myself on this as a whole. But I do feel like, there's just a lot of ugliness in this last few minutes that I don't want to deal with it.
I think that, and I've thought about this a lot over the last couple of days because it's been thrown back in and all these things have come back up. Yes, one of the things that the Kate Fagan interview did not, and not to say that being a lesbian at a Baptist school and a very conservative part of the thing is not a hard journey, because we don't know anybody's journey until we live it. And Brittany had to live that. But what I do know is that while she was here on campus, she was treated like a queen. And so when that interview dropped, Kim got mad about it. What I do think, and she'd been probably rightfully so, but what I do think is that at that point, Kim was the coach, the adult, the experienced one, and Brittany was a naive kid. And at some point, the coach has to be the grown-up in that and get over these things. And holding grudges for a long time, it's just so poisonous in you. And Kim is now kind of, reaping the not the benefits, but like reaping what she sowed here by having these grudges. So letting it go and just saying, I hope she gets home, would have solved all this problem. And now it's something she is going to have to, no matter what she says to any recruit, because you can't assume that, somebody's heard an interview we do. We have people that watch and listen to our show all day long, all the time, and then send us questions like, hey, have you guys talked about this? And we're like, I thought, you're kind of like, well, yeah, but you can't assume those things. Kim can't assume those things. She is going to have to battle this in recruiting for the foreseeable future, and it's not going to matter to a lot of them that all this went on. It's only going to matter that in the moment when asked about it, when everybody could see, Kim didn't say anything.
Yep. And that was the interview earlier in the year. That's why we played it. And to say that, that didn't get any play, that was replayed yesterday by some of the media that covers LSU. Nobody said a word. But I wanted to let you know that, the Fagan story, and I did talk to Kate at the Super Bowl, to act as if Brittany Griner was in, handcuffs while she was on the Baylor campus. I didn't walk in her shoes. She was a queen and a rock star at Baylor. And I never once did I see any kind of blowback about whatever her lifestyle may have been.
Yeah, I don't know what to say really, because I think this whole thing's just completely ridiculous. This is a decade-long grudge at this point. I think that's sad. I think it's sad on Kim's part. Her ego's clearly in the way. I think it's just sad in general that Brittany couldn't patch it up. Her ego was probably in the way to some extent. You just explained that they kind of tried to, but then it got off the rails again for whatever reason. I do think Kate Fagan had an agenda in the piece that she wrote years ago, and if you're around Waco and you see how many people are still echoing the comments of well, Kim told her to hide who she was, and that is total BS, man. That is such a freaking lie, but it all comes from that same article. And that just tells you, you're sitting here talking about what screw what Twitter says. I understand, I love getting people's comments and all that, but you get into the weeds of, what one person on Twitter says, who cares? That text that we got, though, about that lady better, oh, man, that makes me angry. That is just... that is the worst kind of person who tweeted that. I have to imagine they're sexist. I have to imagine they're probably a little bit old as well, just based on that. If not, that's even sadder. But that is a sad text. And I know the person who wrote that is too ignorant to realize that, and I'm the wrong one probably. But that is garbage, man. That is absolute trash. And just in general, I don't, you bring up the anthem and all this other stuff, man. I just hope she gets back from the Russian prison. I understand. I've said it, she did something that was against the law. I don't want, it's like Nikki Collen said, we're getting into the weeds on all this, well, she kneeled and then she did this and I understand why. It's part of the backstory. But just if you don't, I just hope that she gets back sooner rather than later. I hope she doesn't spend the next 10 years of her life in a Russian prison. And that's all I really got on it. Good luck to Kim. No crying over spilt milk over here. I didn't dwell on it when she left. I said, hey, you're going back to Louisiana? Cool. So that's where I am. I just think it's ugly that it even got this ugly,
and
quite
frankly. And I also
frankly,
think that because of what Kim has been torched for before, and in some cases deservedly so, that when she says something, there is this viral thing. And what she said or didn't say on Monday, she could have prevented, as you mentioned, Paul, very quickly by saying, I said this on a show earlier in the year, this is what I think, and everything. They never would have gotten to this point. From the 515 to wrap it up, the fact that the United States allows people to kneel is part of what makes America the greatest country in the world. This is a touchy subject for some. I understand this. All actions have consequences. Nobody is going to win this argument, but we wanted to make sure we did discuss it, but I also wanted to make sure that I clarified what I remember from 2013. This is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco. A hidden gem. It's right behind the bank there. Great drive-through window. Unbelievable drive-through window. You've heard me talk about it for years now, how fast they are at that. They also have the best selection of craft whiskeys, Texas craft whiskeys in Waco. It's absolutely fantastic. TX, Devil's River, Garrison Brothers, all of that is there. Balcones, all of it at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Craft beer, roster's changing. It's the fall. Make sure you get out, get your pumpkin brews, get your Oktoberfest brews, get those things right now, because before you know it, we're talking winter brews. So if you want to enjoy them, go get them now. And they're available on DoorDash. So if you're hanging at the house, running a beer, nobody has to make a beer run now. You can have DoorDash do it from Riverbend Liquor and Wine, and they can get that craft beer, that whiskey, whatever you need on DoorDash delivered right to your door. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Check them out on Instagram or just go see them. Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, behind the bank.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and you know, I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Jon Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
All right, here we go. The last part of this 5 o'clock hour. Don't forget tonight, 10:30 on CW Channel Sports Tonight, with what we do each day, and then we do it again at 10:30 on CW Channel. Jon Machota, theathletic.com, covers the NFL and the Cowboys. So, John, it's obvious the Cowboys found a way to get through what could have been a disastrous stretch with Cooper Rush and the defense playing at a high level. Your thoughts about, are you surprised where they are after what it appeared it could be?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I mean, I don't think the Giants are anything special. I think the Giants are more like the team that played Monday night than they probably were their first two games when they started out 2-0. But that Bengals game, that still was impressive to me, just the way that they stayed in that game and were able to win it late. And now the combination of both of them makes you go into this Washington game certainly thinking like the Cowboys have every chance to win that game. And now all of a sudden you're looking at 3-0 without Dak Prescott. So, yeah, the idea of that certainly didn't seem great, considering even when Dak was right early in the game against Tampa Bay, the offense just looked completely off. And it's not like they've added any wide receivers. One of the biggest things that might have come out of that game Monday night is the fact that CeeDee Lamb, just the way he played in the first half and then the way he played in the second half, I would think that was a pretty big confidence builder for him, because the way he played the second half is what the Cowboys are expecting of him now going forward as their number one wide receiver. So that could end up being a pretty big play there and paying huge dividends. And now all of a sudden you're getting Michael Gallup back, or at least you should for this Sunday. And there's a good chance you have Dalton Schultz back. And then, maybe Dak's back in a couple of weeks for the Philadelphia game. And so, yeah, you're in much better shape and in much better shape than I thought they would be after watching that opener and seeing that Dak was going to be out for an extended period of time.
Yeah, John, it's amazing how far things have come. And one of the things that's worked out for them, even though much maligned in the offseason, not really doing anything about the offensive line other than drafting Tyler Smith, is Tyler Smith looks like a stud so far at left tackle. And Matt Farniok's not been bad either.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, definitely on the Tyler Smith thing, I don't think anybody expected him to come in and play that well at left guard or left tackle. And so to play like he has through these first three games, walking into the locker room today, cross paths with Tyron Smith, and it was just interesting seeing him in there thinking, will he just automatically just jump right back in at left tackle? Obviously, if he's healthy and 100%, Tyron Smith is a Hall of Fame player. But are the Cowboys going to want to mess with that? If Tyler Smith is still playing well, this is their future at left tackle. If he keeps this going, I don't see them moving him out of that spot. That's going to be the guys they want there. And then the other part of it is the fact that, Farniok's been okay, but I think they would prefer it to be Jason Peters or McGovern. And so if you have Peters there, and he looked pretty good in his limited snaps, I think he had a little under 20. I think that's probably your best offensive line. And that doesn't happen if Tyler Smith isn't playing the way that he is. So yeah, that's one of the biggest surprises of these first three games. I mean, of course, Cooper Rush is number one on that list, but number two is certainly the play of Tyler Smith.
Is there any kind of sense that this could be it for Tyron Smith as a Cowboy in the future?
I mean, I haven't heard that from anybody in the organization, but I think you'd be really naive not to think that's a possibility. They're not going to play musical chairs with Tyler Smith if he keeps playing well at this position. And when I say that, there is some Tony Romo with Tyron Smith in the sense that it's not like it was just one injury. It's not like Tyron's been healthy and then all of a sudden this is just cropped up and you're like, hey, there was some bad luck there. It was just the same thing with Tony. When they went with Dak, obviously the success mattered, but there's also that part of, Tony's getting a different injury quite easily now at this stage in his career. Like, how much can we count on him? Do we want to just be playing musical chairs at quarterback when we clearly have another franchise quarterback emerging in a young Dak Prescott? So, they can say right now that, he's obviously a cornerstone piece and Tyron Smith will probably have his name in the Ring of Honor and, go to Canton and all that. But if things are going well, I don't see them moving Tyler Smith away from that position. It wouldn't make any sense. So if that's the case, I don't know where is Tyron Smith your swing tackle? Is he possibly going over to right tackle if they need him to play there? Because let's say if Terrence Steele is ineffective at some point or he gets hurt, those are all possibilities. So they're not going to say anything definitively right now. I'm telling you, they're not moving Tyler Smith as long as he stays healthy and he's playing well at left tackle.
Did they start with a game plan of being able to run the football, one, to help with Cooper Rush? That doesn't mean he can't make the throws. We've seen him do it. But to run the football, and they actually stuck with it even when things didn't go well. It seemed like to me there was not just a commitment, but a commitment that continued.
Yeah, there was, absolutely. There's just a part of me, though, when I watch that, I just think of the last several years where, They beat the Giants 10 out of the last 11 times they play them. Is this going to work every week? Are you going to stick with the run game when you're playing better teams? That remains to be seen. And obviously when you're playing these better teams, is Zeke and Tony Pollard both healthy like they are right now? That 1-2 punch looks outstanding when both are healthy. Will that continue? I mean, obviously it's a rough game. It's a tough business. But if they stay healthy, yeah, I can see this game plan. I think that's what this offensive line across the board does best is run block. So especially when you have a backup quarterback in there, you're going to want to lean on that run game and take as much pressure off of that quarterback as possible. So, yeah, they would love for this to be the formula. Mike McCarthy said that yesterday. This is what they want to stick with going forward, that this is the plan. But if, maybe this week, you're playing a very talented, Washington front, even without Chase Young, that front is still loaded. If you're not running the ball well early in the game, do you get away from that or do you keep, banging your head against the wall until something finally clicks? It helps when you have the big run from Tony Pollard. It helps when you have the big Zeke run up the sideline where you have the, Tyler Smith getting out in space and blocking. And that really does a lot for the running game when you can hit those big chunk plays. But if you're getting 1 yard, 2 yards, no yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, 4 yards, are you going to stick with that? Is that going to get it done? Especially, and then I guess it depends on how the other team's offense is playing as well, if it's a low scoring game. So their plan is to stick with it. So I'm going to say right now, I think they'll stick with it. But against better teams, I need to see it to believe it.
How good is Dan Quinn, and how long can the Cowboys continue to hope to keep him after this season?
I mean, he's great, and he's got great personnel right now. Obviously, you just get some of the guys. Obviously, they've drafted very well in terms of adding pieces on both sides of the ball. But, adding an Anthony Barr in free agency that didn't cost a ton. Jaron Kearse, who hasn't been playing his last couple of weeks, but he's pretty close to returning. Didn't cost you a ton. They've added some key pieces there. Malik Hooker sprinkled in with obviously your DeMarcus Lawrences and your Micahs and Osa and Dorrance Armstrong and other guys like that you drafted, Bohanna. But I mean, Dan Quinn deserves a lot of credit. There's no question about it. He's got them playing. The thing I like probably the most about it is that you don't know from week to week what the game plan is. There isn't this is what we do. We're great at this, and so what it is. Go ahead and try and do something about it. You don't know from week to week what it's going to be, and that's great when you have not only that philosophy, but then you have the players that can carry it out, and it's a talented bunch. I mean, this is week after week we're hearing other teams talk about how this is one of the best pass rushes they've seen. I certainly believe that it is. I mean, heck, you got Dorrance Armstrong with 3 sacks, DeMarcus with 3 sacks, and Micah with 4 through 3 games. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive for any team. So. That's going to be this team's bread and butter, and I think that if you're a Cowboys fan, the thing that you need to be, or you should be most excited about, is that they've definitely not played their best on defense. They can certainly play better. I mean, they haven't had the big takeaways in a game, and that's going to come.
I was watching Philadelphia basically almost try to retire Carson Wentz with, I think, 8 sacks, and they had 4 or so in the first quarter. And while I'm watching that game, even before what Dallas did to Daniel Jones and the Giants, I'm thinking Philadelphia's pretty good. If they sack Carson Wentz 8 times, how many times will the Cowboys sack him the next weekend? What's the over-under on this weekend?
Well, I think you got to set it at least 5. I mean, because then that puts you at where you were last week. So, I think a Vegas line should be 5 or 6. And certainly wouldn't surprise me if it was 10. But, yeah, that's probably where I would put it at. I mean, Micah's coming back from the illness. He was admitted after the game he wasn't 100%. I think you could tell with the way he played. But he still did enough plays to wreck things and obviously help other guys make plays on the defensive front. I think he'll be much closer to 100% in this game, so that's obviously terrifying. And, DeMarcus Lawrence is playing great right now. And so the good news there is that he had a little bit of a scare with his foot during the game. And at one point I was following him, I feel like, more with my binoculars on the sideline, and I was watching the game for probably about 10 minutes, but it looked like, they retaped his foot and that he was going to be done for the game. I didn't have his helmet with him. Then he went to the locker room and then he comes back out and he's ready to go. And so I think it was more of a scare that is the surgically repaired foot. And so he was a little concerned that maybe he, injured it some way, but everything seemed to check out pretty well. And, he was limited in practice today, but it was more of just a walkthrough. But he sounds like he's on track to play on Sunday, and that's obviously a good thing coming off the game he just had.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, John. Thank you very much. Jon Machota, theathletic.com, covers the NFL and the Cowboys. A couple of super chats. David B. Dukes, $25. Just a quick thanks. I've enjoyed watching your videos on YouTube after the fact for a year now. This is my first time being able to watch live, thanks to Hurricane Ian for my time off. Keep it up, guys, and good luck to you, David. Thank you very much.
You.
Cowboy
Stay
country.
safe.
Yeah, OK State fan. I have a ton of respect for Coach Aranda. I know Baylor, Oklahoma State game is going to be great. Love to have the rematch in Arlington again. That would be great news. That mean for those two teams, because that means they would be continuing to win, at least win enough to play again for another Big 12 title. So thanks to Cowboy Country and David B. Dukes for some super chats. A lot of that came in today. We do appreciate you. Paul Catalina's top 5 is next.
Hurrica Regional Tennis and Fitness. Today I was there taking my tennis lesson with Joe. And Joe does an unbelievable job of really simplifying things for me with, okay, your backhand is, you're not kind of stepping through it, and he uses other sports terms. It makes it really easy for me to grasp what I'm doing and correct it. And from minute 1 to minute 15 on one certain drill, I'm completely more confident and more set in what I'm doing as a tennis player. And look, if you want to get into tennis, believe me, it's fantastic exercise. It's great for community. It's a great thing to do. And for just $10, you can go and play tennis at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. And you can have a free week trial if you want to at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. Great activities with adults, whether it's open play for pickleball or tennis. They have those during the week. You can check those out on their social medias on Instagram and Facebook. Great stuff with tennis, and you can get lessons from Joe if you're an adult, and he is really, really good. In 2 seconds, he's already got, you're doing this wrong. Move your feet this way. Makes you so comfortable as a player. And look, I'm ready. I'll take on McEnroe right now. I'll take McEnroe on right now because of my lesson today. It was so good. I left so confident, ready to go into next week and do it again. That's how good it was. That's how much fun I had and how much stress and everything it relieved. So try out the tennis for adults at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 on Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
All right, here's our top 5 coaches heat meter, volume 3. Some new names on the list this week. Some old, some new. One I took off just for this week. And he might be on next week, depending on if anybody gets fired this week. But number 5, new to the list. Why is it so hot in this room? Dana Holgorsen. We talked about this early in the show. It's not rosy right now in Houston. And there are things going on in that team, fighting on the sideline like we talked about earlier in the show, and, angry press conferences, and Dana looking kind of spent when it comes to this group of players, that if they don't get it turned around soon, he's going to move up from number 5 on this list pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would just say, though, like, I need to look into his contract. Like, that's the thing we got to take into account is, like, it's fun for us to just say, like, he's ticking me off, let's fire him. But, okay, are you cutting a $15 million check to get rid of, whoever it is? Like, that's the thing. I don't know exactly off the top of my head what his contract structure is. So it might be a situation where it's, totally feasible. And in that case, I could see where their patience could run thin very quickly. But if not, that might complicate matters, as it often does when you don't necessarily have a big chunk. But then again, Fertitta's got money. So if he wanted to get rid of Holgorsen, I'm sure he'd find a way to do it. But, yeah, I do think you have to at least have the conversations about where is this kind of going with Holgorsen in Houston, because right now it seems very, very anxious and kind of out of whack.
Yeah, they just extended him earlier this year.
There you go. Yeah. So it's more expensive than it was a few months ago. That's for sure.
By the way, Houston's unveiling all black uniforms on their game Friday. So
I think if Baylor did that, the fan base would lose its mind to get black uniforms back.
Yeah.
But that's cool for Houston.
Yeah. Let's see, it looks over $12 million on the buyout right now. So they got a guy who can do it easily, but does he want to? Again, just because he can doesn't mean he will.
Right.
Number 4, grabbing the extinguisher, Scott Satterfield. Now, I think he has maybe quieted the crowd a little bit, but not having his athletic director is going to be tough throughout the year. He has Malik Cunningham, who's an exciting player, but they've lost a couple of close games, and they've got to start winning, or he's going to be out the door. I think he's quieted the crowd a little bit, but I still think he rubs everybody the wrong way.
Well, I think going and searching for a job in just everybody's face definitely rubbed people the wrong way, and he's not going to quite get back over that anytime soon, I don't believe. But, yeah, I mean, I haven't felt like there's been too much conversation. Maybe in Louisville circles or ACC circles there's more of that, and I just haven't seen it or come across it. But I think this one is like a wait and see. Again, I don't know his situation, but I do know he rubbed people the wrong way. They're okay. But, yeah, let's check in on him again in a few weeks and kind of see where they are.
Yeah. Number 3, gas leak. This is in honor of something that happened in my house yesterday, which was terrifying. But I'm okay.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
I don't know, like right now.
I hope so.
Yeah, okay.
I hope so. Number 3, Gas League. Jeff Hathley at Boston College. Boston College has a ton of injuries on their offensive line, and make that that's a reason why they're struggling. Ton of injuries all over the field, but they got Phil Jurkovec back, the best quarterback they've had in a long time, and he has no time to throw. The offense is kind of hapless. They're not winning games, and this was supposed to be a year where BC, after a decent year last year, took a step forward. They didn't, and Jeff Hathley new to the list this week.
Or haven't.
They haven't. They didn't. Yeah, they haven't yet. And it's going to be hard because they have a lot of injuries. And he was someone that they really liked and looked like they did take a step forward last year. But they've taken, based on the early part of this season, 2 steps back.
Yeah, I mean, you said the quarterback, Phil Jurkovec, is coming back. So yeah, that's obviously great news. He's the only player I could, or one of the only players I could name off of that roster. Just hey, who plays for Boston College? Like that would be one of them. But yeah, I don't know much about his situation, I'll be honest with you. And quite frankly, Boston College is a team that anytime they're mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, Boston College exists.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of how it is for me. And I don't mean that disrespectfully towards them in any way. It's just that they're not a big player in my mind when it comes to college football. So with that, I default on how the fan base feels about him because I'd be totally guessing. They might be fine because there's so many injuries that it's like, oh, it's okay. I could tell from a quick Google search. There's plenty of people who are, talking about him being gone. So I don't know exactly, but yeah, like what? I guess my question would be, what does Boston College want to be ultimately?
Well, they and Georgia Tech have kind of similar, situations in that. Boston College, obviously Massachusetts and New England is not a high school football talent hotbed. Not to say there's not guys up there, but nobody's doing shows about, the top 50 commits from the state of Massachusetts. It just doesn't happen in surrounding areas. But they are, like, there's academic things, it's a Jesuit school. So there's different things that you have to deal with. So they're in the, they have to kind of be like Notre Dame and Georgia Tech while not being as big as those in a different area. But they've won in the past, they've won in the past. So they can win there. And you can win anywhere. If you have the right people, you can win anywhere. It doesn't really matter. But it's weird for them.
I guess my main thing is, okay, he's a younger guy. You knew there's probably going to be some growing pains. Are you willing to go through some growing pains? Or do you have boosters who feel like, no, we should be better than this? And that's what I don't know. And I can't imagine that Boston College has those boosters that are like that impatient and feel like they belong, they belong somewhere, quicker. So yeah, maybe it's too early for him, but I have, his name's being, starting to circulate a little bit, as you said.
Yeah. Number 2, smash the glass. Jeff Scott, a couple weeks ago, had Florida on the ropes, and that could have maybe changed his stars a little bit, but now
it's over, Johnny.
It's over. It's over. No 1 and 2 are probably on the same list, but it's the top 5, not the top 4 and 2 at the top. So
they're just not very good. Gary Bohannon's, it was funny when, and I don't like funny mean or anything, but when Gary Bohannon transferred, I remember there was a lot of people that just didn't know well enough. Like, and that's why I don't try to front on this show and pretend like I don't know what I don't know about. But like, you could tell that people didn't quite know really what the gauge was of Gary Bohannon in Waco. So they saw him Big 12 champion and all that. And like, how do you get rid of Gary Bohannon for this Blake Shapen guy, even if he played a little bit? It's like, watch South Florida right now. And that's why they got rid of Gary, or didn't get rid of, but that's why they chose Blake Shapen over him. And it's not just Gary Bohannon's fault by any mean either. There's a lot of problems there. And yeah, I can't imagine that USF is going to go through another year of this. I don't see how.
He's one of the 3 best players on their team, and he just got there. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know,
that's the problem.
It's not good. So yeah, like I said, I don't see, and I feel for Gary because it's like I said, it's not him being like the guy that's causing all of it, but I don't know how they can do this for another year.
Yeah. And number 1, save yourselves. Carl Durrell got the dreaded vote of confidence this week, which in Colorado speak right now is we're just trying to figure out how to pay this out because there is.
Why did I feel like they won? They obviously did.
They're
not even close.
They're bad, and he's even saying like, well, I like the way that our guys love football. They're just not good at it. I mean, he even
probably because he got a vote of confidence after
maybe that was
blowout.
And
you feel like, oh, they must have done something good to get that vote of confidence. No, they did not. They got destroyed again. That TCU loss at the beginning of the year, you could kind of tell at the time, if you watched that game, you could see that, like, neither team was particularly good because it was the first game of the year, but TCU was clearly better, and Colorado was clearly not very good at all. Mm-hmm. And they've had kind of a, they've switched quarterbacks. They got a lot of Texas guys on that roster, so I typically would root for them to do well. But, yeah, it's just not coming together, and it's not looking like it's going to. And it's tough because there was Colorado, and they have Mel Tucker, and here comes Michigan State, like, just refusing to not, refusing to go a different direction. They got Mel Tucker, and that kind of changed the trajectory of Colorado. And now you kind of wonder with Michigan State of, like, did they get a little bit too aggressive in that regard with a contract extension? But that's another conversation. For Colorado, though, it really screwed them up because they thought Mel Tucker was going to be their coach. And Carl Durrell, I know he's respected and all that, but there's nothing there, man. Like, there's no juice. There's no optimism, as best I can tell. And that's another school where it's like, what do they expect to be? Is this like we're the Big 12 North contenders with Nebraska back in the 90s Colorado that they think they should be? Is this national champion Colorado in the early 90s, the fifth down expectation? Or is this basically that they've just been there for like 20 years now and are happy to collect the Pac-12 paycheck? I don't know what they want to be or what they expect to be at Colorado anymore, and I'm not sure that they do either, but I do know that the direction they're going, it's not working, and Carl Durrell is a very safe bet, along with a Jeff Scott to probably be one of these jobs that opens up.
You really think about it, the teams that left the Big 12, Nebraska's a shell of themselves, and they were okay when they left. They played for the Big 10 champion or Big 8 or 12 championship. Good God, the numbers. And then they did a couple of things that nothing.
They played for a national title in 2001. I know it's 20 years now.
Missouri left, and they early on had a little bit of run with the SEC when they won a division. But and that's an alarm for our promo. Sorry about that. They've done nothing
since they first got there.
A&M was just basically who they are.
I actually argue they may be
Colorado
better, though,
is just
in some ways. A&M.
Yeah.
A&M's more high profile than they were, I feel like. If anybody had benefited, I think it was A&M, but not like in a national championship
Johnny
way.
Manziel gave immediately.
Of course.
But after that, it was just, now they've gotten a lot of attention, including today's note about the commitment. But Colorado just evaporated.
Yep.
I will make the argument that no one who has changed conferences recently, and I'll go back to Arkansas. And look, Arkansas in the SEC has been fine, but they've never won the dang thing. So
have they been fine?
I mean,
they've had moments.
They've had moments, but they've never won it.
No.
Right?
No.
So, it's great.
That means USC, UCLA, Texas, Oklahoma, and the incoming 4 from the Big 12. We don't have anything else to tell you.
I mean, you never know. I mean, right now the numbers are not on your side, but the whole world's changing, so we'll see.
I feel great about saying that the 4 teams that are leaving will not reach Colorado status and stay there as long as the Buffs have. Even with UCLA, with the money pouring in, I don't see how they'll even allow that to happen because they'll just buy themselves a team that can be more successful in this next iteration of college football. But yeah, it's sad to see what Colorado's kind of become an afterthought, and I'm not trying to pile on. It's just that we're talking hot seats. You definitely have to have Carl Durrell on there.
Yep. From the 515, a text line today, I miss the days when people were civil, could agree to disagree. I'm amen to growing the blank up. Thanks for the response. I'll tune in tomorrow from kind of a couple of things. One of the things everyone's angry. And if you're not, you're told to be. And if you still aren't angry, enough people attack you to eventually you become angry. And there's no need for it. We appreciate everybody, the feedback from today. Jacob Wilson and Garrett Ross, Emery Winter, all of you. Don't forget tonight, 10:30, the CW channel. Sports Tonight. Thanks to the great folks at KWTX and that company and our sponsors and our partners with Ashley Hodge, Brian Etheridge, and Colt Barber. Good night, 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while